Chapter 13:27. He didn't know that he had overestimated himself. The six almighty beings weren't looking for him at all, but for Zhao Fu's location. With the six almighty beings' terrifying abilities, they might even cause a lot of trouble for Zhao Fu in the future. Zhao Fu's body was boiling hot, and after being affected by the six desires, demonic qi and evil spirit abyss flower, he could not stop his desires and continuously went wild on the flower fairy's body. Under the influence of the sea of flowers, the flower fairy panted and shyly responded to Zhao Fu. The two of them spent an entire day in the sea of flowers before stopping. The flower fairy's face was flushed red as she powerlessly lay on top of Zhao Fu, while Zhao Fu lightly hugged the flower fairy. The two of them were enjoying the afterglow of their passion. After a while, the flower fairy blushed and said, "Your Majesty, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about two people not wearing clothes and sticking close to each other. Through a kiss, the two forces will fuse together." Zhao Fu felt quite startled. It turned out that he had misunderstood. No wonder the flower fairy had resisted at the crucial moment. However, Zhao Fu still shamelessly said, "Even if it's just like that, I wouldn't be able to resist because you're too alluring." The flower fairy couldn't help but feel delighted and shyly shoved her head into Zhao Fu's chest, not daring to meet Zhao Fu's gaze. Suddenly, the flower fairy thought of something and sweetly called out, "Husband, even though my power hasn't recovered, I've recovered some of my memories. I discovered that I was formed from a remnant soul, and if I collect the power of countless flowers, especially the world's 8 wondrous flowers, my former power will recover." Hearing this, Zhao Fu was startled and asked curiously, "What kind of remnant soul is that?" Because the flower fairy's existence was too special, Zhao Fu had always been curious about what kind of existence she was. Now that he heard that she had recovered some of her memories, he asked curiously. The flower fairy felt quite mysterious and smiled as she said, "Husband, I'm quite curious. Guess what kind of remnant soul I am, and I'll give you a hint that will exceed your imagination." Zhao Fu thought to himself. This exceeded his expectations, and he looked quite shocked as he said, "Fairy, don't tell me you're the remnant soul of a powerful being." If there was a higher being lying in his arms, Zhao Fu would be quite shocked and afraid. After all, the difference in power was like the difference between an ocean and a grain of sand. A higher being could kill Zhao Fu countless times with just a finger. During his trip to Emperor Path College, Zhao Fu had not been able to retaliate at all against Emperor Heaven Realm experts, and Emperor Heaven Realm experts had not been able to retaliate at all in front of higher beings. Zhao Fu realized just how terrifying the power of higher beings was. With Zhao Fu's stage 9 cultivation, the thought of the person lying in his arms was enough to scare him. Now, Zhao Fu's heart had turned cold. The flower fairy looked at Zhao Fu with her beautiful eyes and smiled as she shook her head. Zhao Fu heaved a sigh of relief and asked, "Is that a realm below almighty beings, or a remnant soul of a flower goddess?" Now, Zhao Fu felt that the flower fairy was most likely a remnant soul of a flower goddess. After all, the flower fairy's blessings and her abilities seemed to be that of a godly spirit. Most of the activities in the legacy land were related to godly spirits. However, the flower fairy still shook her head and said, "I'm not a flower goddess. I was even more powerful than a higher being." "What?" Zhao Fu looked at the flower fairy in shock. She was even more powerful than a higher being, and she was not a half-step celestial. Zhao Fu's body felt quite cold, and with a half-step celestial lying in the flower fairy's arms, Zhao Fu felt like he was going to be scared to death. This was especially so when he thought about what he had just done to the flower fairy. He had actually done that to a half-step celestial. If she wanted to make trouble for him in the future, he would not even know how he died. Facing such an existence, Zhao Fu couldn't help but feel nervous. "That fairy, fairy, I apologize for what just happened. I didn't ask for your opinion properly. However, are you really a remnant soul of a half-step celestial?" The flower fairy lightly laughed. So even the Emperor of Qin City could feel fear. "However, husband, I'm not angry. Can't you see that I'm quite happy? Also, I'm not some half-step celestial's remnant soul. Zhao Fu felt quite confused. She was even more powerful than a higher being and not a half-step celestial. So what was she? The flower fairy smiled as she reminded him. Husband, what did you just call me? The flower fairy smiled as she reminded him. Husband, what did you just call me? Hearing this, Zhao Fu's heart stopped beating, and a look of shock appeared on his face as he thought of something impossible. If Zhao Fu had just called the flower fairy a fairy, wouldn't that mean that the flower fairy was a true celestial? Thinking about how he was hugging a legendary celestial, Zhao Fu immediately wanted to run. He disregarded everything and ran as fast as he could. He did not even have time to think about putting on clothes. Right now, Zhao Fu's entire body was ice cold, and he was sweating profusely. He felt as if he was going to die. He had actually done that to an immortal. If he told others, no one would believe him, because this was simply too terrifying and shocking. What kind of existence was an immortal? They were the ultimate existences in the heaven-awakened world, and they could cause the heavens and earth to split apart, destroy countless worlds, and annihilate all creatures. There was no power in the world that could stop them. Although Zhao Fu had always been curious about what the flower fairy was, he never would have imagined that the flower fairy was actually an immortal. However, Zhao Fu still wanted to confirm something, so he asked, Celestial Maiden, what is it? You really are the remnant soul of an immortal. The flower fairy smiled and nodded seriously. Now that he had confirmed his suspicions, Zhao Fu's heart sank into an abyss. If the flower fairy did anything to him or to Qin, Zhao Fu and Qin would not even have the courage to resist. Hearing the flower fairy admit it, the golden dragon within Zhao Fu's body was incredibly shocked. It had never thought that the flower fairy would be such a terrifying existence. The flower fairy sensed the changes in Zhao Fu and shyly kissed Zhao Fu, saying, Husband, don't be afraid of me. You don't have to be afraid of me. Am I not your woman now? Moreover, my power is less than 10% of yours, and I've only recovered a small portion of my memories. I'm afraid I won't be able to help you much right now. It was the first time that a woman had been sent to him, and Zhao Fu didn't dare to accept her. It wasn't that he didn't want to, but that he really didn't dare to. Just thinking about the flower fairy's identity was enough to scare him to death. However, having such a terrifying woman would be of great help to him and Qin in the future. Moreover, he also had a concubine from the origin race. Even though she had left for a long time, and he didn't know if she would ever return, she was still Zhao Fu's concubine. She was naturally Tuoba Qing, and she was Zhao Fu's first woman. It had been a few years, and Zhao Fu wondered where she was and how she was doing. Thinking about Tuoba Qing, Zhao Fu couldn't help but feel worried. He didn't know when the flower fairy would leave him. Chapter 1328. Zhao Fu shook his head, indicating that it was fine. Looking at the flower fairy's beautiful face, he evilly smiled and pressed the flower fairy under him as he asked, Fairy, let's do it again, okay? The flower fairy shyly nodded. However, just as Zhao Fu was about to do something, there was some movement around them, and the flower fairy said, Husband, it's possible that a flower fairy is about to be born. It's possible that a flower fairy is about to be born. Hearing this, Zhao Fu could only stop. The two of them put on their clothes and headed to where the movement was. The place where the movement was happening was not very far away, only a few hundred meters away. There was a small red flower that was only a few centimeters tall and had 4 petals. It absorbed the flower energy around it and quickly grew. It gave off an intense red light, and a figure gradually condensed within the red light, waiting for it to dissipate. A flower fairy appeared in front of Zhao Fu. She had a graceful figure and snow-white skin. She was incredibly beautiful and had long, red hair. There was a small red flower on her head, and she wore clothes made of flower petals that only covered the important parts. She also had a pair of transparent, leaf-shaped wings. What was most surprising was that they were the size of normal people, unlike Rose and the others, who were only as big as a palm. Zhao Fu had asked the flower fairy about this, and the flower fairy's reply was that there were many types of flower fairies, and they all looked different. Some had special abilities, but their abilities were roughly the same. There would not be any difference. Hearing this, Zhao Fu examined the abilities of the newly born flower fairies and found that they were the same as normal flower fairies, making him feel at ease. Now, he could spawn 10 or so of these flower fairies every day, and Zhao Fu felt quite satisfied. He wanted to take the flower fairy back to the palace and make her a concubine. Her phoenix chi would be unimaginably vast, and it would not be much weaker than Tuobiqing's. Husband, I need to come here often to maintain the flower realm. I need to come here often to maintain the flower world, and I want to stay here to absorb the flower's energy to recover my power and memories, the flower fairy said. Zhao Fu thought about it and decided that the flower realm was the most suitable place for the flower fairy. So he said, Then you stay here. I will order people to build a palace here for you to live in. I will also hand over all the flower spirits to you. The flower fairy revealed a happy smile. Thank you, husband. I forgot to tell you that I left a trace of celestial flowers' energy in your body, so make sure you hide it well. Also, you can absorb all sorts of flower energy, and you can also use the evil spirit abyss flower's energy to its peak. Zhao Fu sensed that there was an additional flower within his body. This flower was very small, only about the size of a mung bean. It had 8 petals and gave off 8 different lights, but the power it contained was extremely great. Seeing this, Zhao Fu felt quite moved. This was evidently very important to the flower fairy, but she had still given it to him. He could not help but spend some more time with her. Following this, Zhao Fu returned to the palace and made the flower fairy a concubine. The amount of phoenix chi she had was quite shocking. If he had made the flower fairy a concubine earlier, just from that massive amount of phoenix chi, he would have realized that her identity was not simple at all. However, back then, Zhao Fu really did not have any intentions of taking possession of the flower fairy. If it wasn't for the misunderstanding with the flower fairy's status as his benefactor, Zhao Fu would not have been able to do it. In the desolate crow world, which was the world next to the white god world, a massive battle was going on. This was a battle for supremacy. The desolate crow world was quite special. There were no sects or kingdoms here, and everything was gathered in the form of tribes. The race here was called the Desolate Crow Race, and they were all tall and muscular. They were natural warriors. However, the culture here seemed to be stuck in a primitive society. They all wore beast skins and had beast fangs. They held crude weapons and gave off a barbaric aura. The Desolate Crow world geography was quite special. It had 68 continents, and most of them were quite small. A few regions could form a continent, and there were all sorts of tribes living within them. The largest of the 68 continents was at the center of the 68 continents, which was why it was called the Overlord Continent. Anyone who obtained this Overlord Continent would become the Desolate Crow Overlord, and they would be able to accept the submission of the other continents and have the power to mobilize them. The War of the Overlords that was happening now was a huge war for the Overlord of the continent. The victor would become the Overlord and rule over the 68 continents. Boom! A valiant-looking, violet-clothed young man held a sharp sword, and 9 violet dragons revolved around his body. He gave off an intense king's aura as he slashed out with his full strength, causing a massive violet sword light to split the heavens and earth. Opposite him was a well-built young man who held a massive stone hammer. He exploded out with terrifying power and roared like a berserk beast, giving off an unstoppable aura as he charged at the violet-clothed young man. Bang! The violet sword light gave off terrifying power as it slashed over. The well-built young man swung the stone hammer with all of his strength, giving off immense destructive power as it smashed towards the violet sword light. However, in the end, he was still sent flying, and he coughed up a large mouthful of blood. The violet-clothed young man appeared next to him and pointed his sword at the young man as he said coldly, "You've already lost, not just in terms of martial power, but also in terms of tribe. You only have 2 choices, submit or die." The well-built young man did not hesitate. Because he was weaker than the violet-clothed young man, he accepted his loss. He half knelt on the ground and shouted, I, Yiwuji, submit to the Sea Tribe. The Sea Tribe sounded quite familiar because the violet-clothed young man was CG, the former legatee of Great Xia. After escaping from the human world, CG came to the desolate crow world. In order to regain his strength, he did everything he could, including marrying the daughter of a large tribe's chief and accepting the desolate crow's baptism, becoming half a desolate crow tribesman. After that, he accepted the tribe and developed it to where it was now. The desolate power of the 9-continent cauldrons was undoubtedly the greatest help to him. This was because the Xia dynasty was also founded during the Desolate Era and had hidden desolate power. This allowed him to have sufficient power. In the end, CG started the Overlord War and became the 10th Overlord of the Desolate Crow world. During this period of time, CG had suffered greatly, and his aura had greatly changed. He was much steadier and sharper than before, and he gave off a valiant aura. He had suffered so much and endured so many cold gazes. All of this was so that he could take revenge on Qin one day. In the end, this day had come. He was now the 10th Overlord of the Desolate Crow world, an existence that everyone paid attention to. CG had never thought that he would have his current status. Even though he was not the true ruler of a world, he could use the power of an entire world. However, he only had the qualifications to compete with Qin. Chapter 1329. Now, he only had the qualifications to fight, and it was not too likely for him to defeat Qin. As such, CG naturally thought of the Devil Horn Empire, which was opposing Qin. If he allied with the Devil Horn Empire, he would be able to defeat Qin and wash away his humiliation. He would return 10 times what Qin had done to him in the past. Even though he had considered allying with the Devil Horn Empire and Great Qin Empire, they did not have the same opinion and did not want to directly fight with the Devil Horn Empire or Great Qin. As such, CG could only give up on working with them. After becoming the overlord of the Desolate Crow world, CG immediately sent an envoy to the Devil Horn Empire to express his intentions to ally with them. Yao Ming looked delighted. At a time like this, having an ally with the world would be of great help to the Devil Horn Empire. The Devil Horn Empire's overall strength would surpass Qin's, so Yao Ming was naturally very happy and agreed. CG did not look surprised at Yao Ming agreeing to ally with them, as he had long since expected that only an idiot would not ally with them. After both sides reached an agreement, they quickly deepened their cooperation. Yao Ming gifted countless pieces of equipment and medicinal pills to the Desolate Crow world, increasing its strength and improving their relationship. Soon, they began to discuss how to destroy Qin. In the end, both sides were quite satisfied with this meeting and came up with a plan to destroy Qin. They smiled and prepared to go back and make preparations. Zhao Fu naturally heard about this, and he was quite surprised by CG's appearance. He had never thought that he would be able to meet this old opponent of his, and he had never thought that CG would become the overlord of a world. However, Zhao Fu did not pay too much attention to CG, as there was a pile of information about the Desolate Crow world in front of him. Zhao Fu already had a rough understanding of the Desolate Crow world. Right now, CG was not the true ruler of a realm. He was only the ruler of a realm, and he was only the ruler of the various powers. His authority had not been truly unified, and there were so many powers that could not be truly loyal to CG. Zhao Fu sneered. He would first let CG see what a small country needed to do in a contest between two big countries. Qin's emissary quickly headed to the Desolate Crow world and asked around. Some people were not convinced that CG, an outsider, had become the overlord, but because they did not have the power to resist, they kept their dissatisfaction to themselves. Hearing that CG wanted to ally with the Devil Horn Empire to destroy the Qin Empire, many people objected. The Devil Horn Empire and the Qin Empire's fame had spread throughout the surrounding 10 or so worlds. They were also the two strongest countries in this area. The Desolate Crow world's people did not want to participate, even though they had a world and their warriors were not weak. However, they were divided into countless factions, while the other side was a unified faction. The battle prowess of both sides was clearly much stronger. Whether it was in terms of morale, equipment, or unity, the unified faction had a great advantage. The Devilhorn Empire and the Qin Empire were both massive unified empires, and the Desolate Crow world was not strong enough. If they participated, they would definitely suffer. However, as the overlord of the Desolate Crow world, CG had the right to decide what to do, and they had to obey the overlord's orders. Of course, in order to appease the dissatisfied voices, CG said that he would not submit to the two empires and would fight against the two empires. The Desolate Crow people would conquer the world from now on and would not fear bloodshed or any war, using this as a slogan to motivate the Desolate Crow people. This was indeed quite useful. The Desolate Crow people were all battle-hungry people and did not fear battle. Similarly, the Desolate Crow people had never left the Desolate Crow world before. Now, under the leadership of their new overlord, they might be able to conquer other worlds instead of fighting amongst themselves. Because of the Desolate Crow world's special location, it was difficult for the factions within it to unify, so it did not start any battles. The other worlds did not want to offend the Desolate Crow world either. Now that they were going to conquer worlds, this was a historic moment, and CG received the support of countless Desolate Crow race youths. Some of the older Desolate Crow race members were deeply worried. They were old and no longer had any hot-bloodedness. They just wanted to live peacefully in the Desolate Crow world. Participating in a war between two massive empires could cause the Desolate Crow world to fall into danger. In actuality, this was indeed the case. The messengers that the Qin Empire had sent out had already contacted the tribe that was most dissatisfied with CG. This tribe was quite powerful and was one of the top 3 tribes in the Desolate Crow world. This tribe was called the Mater tribe, and the Mater tribe was quite shocked at the sudden arrival of the Qin Empire's messengers. They did not understand why the Qin Empire's messengers had come to find them. However, as the messengers of such a massive empire, the Mater tribe still received this messenger seriously. The Qin Empire's messengers directly stated their goal. Qin Empire would provide all sorts of help for the Mater tribe to become the overlord, and they also told him of CG's true identity. He was a rebel from the Qin Empire, and Qin Empire had to kill him. Now, he dares to control the Desolate Crow world and ally with the Devilhorn Empire to resist Qin Empire. Our Emperor Qin Empire is quite furious, so he is willing to help the Mater tribe. Of course, you can choose to refuse, and Qin Empire will choose someone else to be the overlord. Qin Empire is willing to provide all sorts of equipment and even war beasts to become the overlord of the Desolate Crow world, and unifying the Desolate Crow world will not be a problem. The Mater tribe had always been dissatisfied with CG and wanted to become the overlord, but they did not have the strength to do so. Hearing that they had Qin Empire's full support, they were naturally quite delighted. Hearing that Qin Empire's messengers would choose someone else to work with, they did not hesitate and chose to work with Qin Empire. Following this, Qin Empire's messengers came back with a large number of gifts, saying, "His Majesty is very happy to work with you and has sent over 10 million sets of armor, 10 million weapons, 6 million sets of bows and arrows, 5 million bottles of stage, 3 medicinal pills, and 100 war beasts." The Mater tribe's people looked incredibly shocked. They had never thought that Qin Empire would give them such a large sum. Looking at the exquisite equipment that gave off a cold light and the bottles of medicinal pills, everyone's eyes widened and their breathing became erratic. With such a massive amount of resources, the Mater tribe's people felt incredibly delighted. They were now sure that Qin Empire would fully support them in fighting for the position of overlord. They did not suspect Qin Empire's true goal because CG was a rebel from the Qin Empire. They had investigated this and had confirmed CG's identity. Chapter 1330. In actuality, these pieces of equipment had already been discarded by Qin, and they were not very useful. Now that Qin had a complete set of black Iron God equipment and medicinal pills, he had added Hidden Evil, which he had used against the Orc City. Even though this was quite sinister, Zhao Fu did not want to fully support a faction in case they turned on him. More importantly, Zhao Fu did not trust them. Seeing the Mater tribe's people look so delighted, the Qin's envoy smiled and said, "Everyone, these are just inanimate objects and are not much. Qin's truly powerful battle beasts are his battle beasts. Everyone, please take a look." Massive gray wolves appeared in front of everyone. Looking at their bodies that were close to 100 meters long, their savage eyes, sharp fangs, and the ferocious auras they gave off, everyone felt quite shocked. Is this Qin's true strength? Everyone could not help but gulp in shock. Even though they had heard of how powerful Qin was, they had never seen it for themselves. Today, their horizons had been broadened, and they had seen Qin's true strength. They were now even more certain that the desolate crow world was not a match for Qin, and it would be best if they did not become enemies with Qin. At the same time, they were quite happy that with such a powerful faction supporting them, they would be able to easily obtain the overlord position. Following this, the Qin's envoy threw out an important piece of news. If the Mater tribe truly wanted to cooperate with Qin, the supreme ruler of Qin, Qin's emperor, would personally come to discuss with everyone, and he might even provide the ability to create Qin's battle beasts. Everyone was sent into an uproar. No one had thought that even Qin's emperor would come. In actuality, the Mater tribe's strength was equivalent to a marquee 8 kingdoms. Meeting the ruler of Qin, who had 3 worlds, made them feel quite flattered. At the same time, they were not in a hurry to agree. Instead, they returned to their tents and gathered all the nobles in the tribe to discuss the matter from the beginning. This was because they wanted to do something that would affect the fate of the entire Mater tribe. Sitting in the tent was a thin, middle-aged man dressed in black. He was the chief of the Mater tribe, Mok. Beside him was a sturdy young man named Moyua, the young master of the Mater tribe. The 2 rows below were filled with people. They were naturally the nobles of the tribe. Now, they looked at Mok, waiting for him to speak. Mok told everyone everything that had happened, allowing them to voice their opinions. Soon, someone said, "I think we can cooperate with Qin. They have a reason to destroy CG, and we also want to compete for the overlord position. It's just a matter of taking what we need. Besides, CG has long known that we are dissatisfied with him. It's just that he hasn't found a chance yet. If he has a chance, he will destroy our Mater tribe immediately." Another person said, "I agree with that. We should take advantage of Qin's help to make a move against CG, or else it will be too late." However, someone said hesitantly, "For Qin to support us so much, his goal might not be simple. I feel that Qin wants a civil war in the desolate crow world so that the desolate crow world will not be able to threaten Qin." The others nodded, and one person said, "If this civil war breaks out, it will definitely be the largest civil war in the desolate crow world. We have the support of the Qin Empire, and now that CG has allied with the Devil Horn Empire, we will definitely receive the Devil Horn Empire support. When that time comes, who knows how many people will die because of this? It's possible that we will become the sinners of the desolate crow world, causing the desolate crow world's creatures to be plunged into misery and suffering." Hearing this, the atmosphere within the tent became quite heavy. Most people did not want to cooperate with Qin and did not want a terrifying civil war to break out in the desolate crow world. Seeing this, someone said dissatisfiedly, "I know that you don't want a large-scale civil war, but you need to understand that CG is Qin's enemy and is allied with the Devil Horn Empire. The desolate crow world has already joined in. Even if we don't start a civil war, Qin will attack the desolate crow world sooner or later. When that time comes, the desolate crow world will be filled with mountains of corpses and rivers of blood. This is unavoidable. Also, CG wants to destroy us at any time. Do you want to wait for death here and let CG come and kill us? If we want to fight for the overlord position, we will have to go through a civil war. What's more important is that Qin is not limited to only cooperating with one of us. He has many other factions to choose from. Do you think the other factions will refuse Qin 100%? A civil war will break out sooner or later, and the most important thing for us is to obtain the most power. Moreover, Great Qin's emperor has personally come, which shows Great Qin's sincerity. Everyone has seen that battle beast with their own eyes. That terrifying battle beast is most likely able to fight against 50,000 to 60,000 soldiers. If we can obtain such a method, not only will the entire desolate crow world belong to the Mater tribe, but the surrounding worlds will also belong to the Mater tribe. Our Mater tribe will lead the desolate crow race into a glorious era. Hearing this, everyone silently thought about it. Right now, cooperating with Chin was the best choice. In the end, the Chief Moke listened to the suggestions of the various factions and decided to formally cooperate with Great Chin. After hearing about this, Zhao Fu smiled and did not feel too surprised, as he had long since guessed this. As such, he got up and snuck into the desolate crow tribe and came to the Mater tribe. The one who received Zhao Fu was the Mater tribe's young chief Moyue. The Mater tribe's chief did not appear, as he was still on guard against Zhao Fu. After all, Zhao Fu had a nation armament with the power of 3 worlds and could easily kill him. As such, he did not directly meet with Zhao Fu and had Moyue take his place. Within the tent, Moyue and Xiang Xiaolong received Zhao Fu and celebrated their cooperation. There was not much to discuss about the cooperation. It was basically that Qin would provide all sorts of resources. What the Mater tribe felt was that the method to nurture that war beast was incredibly terrifying. That method was Qin's most important secret, and he would not easily give it to the Mater tribe. That war beast was something that the Mater tribe wanted the most, as it would be their main force in sweeping through the various large factions. As such, they first properly received Zhao Fu before bringing up this matter. However, how could Zhao Fu agree so easily? However, he did not say anything too harsh and gave them some room to bargain. Zhao Fu was doing everything according to plan, and Moyue let out a sigh of relief. There was still some hope, and according to the Mater tribe's plan, he smiled and had everyone leave, and he called in 10 beautiful Mater tribe women. Chapter 1331. In actuality, the other women were like this as well, and they gave off a dense wildness and a straightforward and domineering aura. Almost all of the wild crow women were like this, as they were quite valiant and liked to fight. As such, they naturally did not give off a weak aura. Moyue pointed at the most beautiful woman and smiled as he said, "That's my little sister, and her name is Molly. The other women are all famous beauties in the Mater tribe, and they are now your Majesty's women. This is a small gift from the Mater tribe." Zhao Fu could tell what the Mater tribe meant. The Mater tribe chief's daughter had been sent here, which showed how much importance the Mater tribe attached to this matter. At the same time, this would make the relationship between the two sides more stable. Moreover, as the daughter of the Mater tribe chief, Molly would think of ways to help the Mater tribe in the future, and she would also collect information about Qin for the Mater tribe. As such, most factions would choose the people they were closest to, as they were the most reliable and had various advantages. Your Majesty, enjoy yourself. Enjoy yourself. We'll talk about business later. Moyue smiled and said goodbye, then left the tent. Zhao Fu felt quite surprised. He had thought that he would bring these women back to Qin's palace, and he had never thought that Moyue would now want to enjoy them. Molly gave a cool smile as she walked over to Zhao Fu and boldly straddled him. She put her arms around Zhao Fu's neck and looked at Zhao Fu provocatively as she said, "Your Majesty Qin, I've often heard of you. Now I want you to do me." Zhao Fu couldn't help but laugh. It was rare to see such a bold, arrogant, and wild woman. What happened next did not need to be said, nor could it be described in detail. Intense sounds came from within the tent. At first, Molly was able to say a few words, but she quickly started to beg for mercy. However, the other women could no longer do it, so Zhao Fu could only do it with Molly. He wanted to see if she would still dare to be so arrogant in the future. There were 5 or 6 female soldiers guarding the tent, and they were Molly's personal soldiers. In the Mater tribe, Molly led an army, and she was quite strong. If it wasn't for the fact that this matter was too important, the Mater tribe definitely would not give Molly away. These female soldiers were quite good-looking and had mature figures, and they gave off ferocious auras. Hearing that, they hurriedly walked into the tent, but soon they started to moan. Moyue waited in the distance, but the sounds were too loud, and he could not help but react. Then, he heard his little sister's voice. An image appeared in his mind of his little sister being pressed down by a man and ferociously doing it. Hearing his little sister's pleas, Moyue felt quite amazed at Zhao Fu's abilities. Including the female soldiers, there were 10 or so women, but it was still not enough. The Qin Emperor was just as the legends said, extremely dissolute and lustful. With this weakness, he could easily control Zhao Fu and obtain what he wanted. Moyue immediately ordered people to find another 30 beauties from the tribe and bring them here for Zhao Fu to enjoy. Just as the 30 beauties entered, their moans sounded out. Moyue listened in the distance and could not take it anymore, so he wanted to find a woman. However, soon, he heard his little sister's voice. Moyue couldn't help but curse. Just as he was about to give the order to send more women in, his body froze as he saw a peerlessly beautiful woman walk towards the tent. Not only was this woman beautiful, but her skin was snow white and she was voluptuous and alluring. She wore a fox fur coat and gave off a trace of nobility. She also gave off a mature aura, making people want to pounce on her and ferociously do her. She was his mother and his father's only woman. She was called Shui and was a member of the Snow Tribe. Why was she here? Moyue felt quite shocked and had a bad premonition, and he quickly went up to stop his mother. "Mother, what are you doing here?" Shui said angrily. "Your bastard father gave me to the person in the tent and told me to properly serve that person." Moyue felt as if his mind had exploded and went blank. The desolate Crow people were quite valiant, and there were men who invited their friends to do their wives or had their wives serve important guests. However, Moyue had never thought that his father would give his mother to someone else. However, Moyue quickly understood the reason. His father most likely did not want to do this, but he was still thinking about the big picture. His mother, Shui had the desolate Crow woman body, and she had a unique charm that could make any man fall in love with her and go crazy for her. With how lustful Great Qin's emperor was, he would most likely be controlled by his mother. Even if he could not obtain the Qin Empire, he would at least be able to obtain massive help from the Qin Empire, and the benefits would be unimaginable. Moreover, the desolate Crow woman body was incredibly demanding. The previous overlord had the desolate Crow woman body, and she needed thousands of men to do her every day. This was why his father was so skinny. When he was young, his father was a hero of his generation and had countless beauties. However, it was already quite difficult for him to deal with his mother, so his mother was his only woman. However, as his father grew older and older, he became weaker and weaker. If this continued, his father would die because of his mother sooner or later. Moyue hoped that this would be the case. He hoped that his father would die earlier so that he could inherit the position of the tribe and his mother. Ever since he was young, he had deeply loved his mother, but he had always hidden it within his heart and did not dare to let his father know. This was why Moyue had been so shocked and excited when he heard that his father had given his mother to someone else. Moyue said angrily, "Mother, wait here. I'll go and find father right away. I definitely won't allow such a thing to happen." Shui lightly smiled and nodded as she lightly hugged Moyue, saying, "As expected from my good son, but you need to remember not to quarrel with your father too much. As long as your father takes back his orders, it will be fine. I only have you and your family in my heart, and I definitely won't serve other men." Moyue greedily breathed in his mother's aura and tightly hugged his mother. He resolutely nodded and thought to himself that he definitely could not let this happen. His mother belonged to him, and no one could take her away from him. Soon, Moyue ran into the tent and was about to loudly reprimand his father when Moke threw out a pile of clothes, causing Moyue to collapse to the ground and stare at his father in a daze. Those clothes were his mother's underwear that he had stolen since he was young. Chapter 1332. Moyue looked dispirited and powerlessly sat there. The secret hidden in the depths of his heart had long since been known by his father, the person he should not have known. Now, he did not have the strength to persuade his father. That way, his father would be able to get rid of his mother and recover his essence chi. His mother would also be satisfied, and he would not do that forbidden thing. With his mother's help, his little sister would have a better life in Qin, and the tribe would receive more support from Qin. Outside the tent, Shuer heard the intense sounds within the tent, and her body reacted greatly. Her face became red, and her eyes shined with lust. However, Shuer still controlled herself. Even though she wanted to go in, she stayed a bit further away. She told herself not to think too much and not to listen. However, from a bit further away, she could still hear the women's moans within the tent. Their voices were filled with joy and pleasure. Shuer almost wanted to go in, but she controlled herself and wanted to leave. Perhaps that bastard husband of hers had already taken back his orders. At the same time, she felt quite shocked and disappointed. The Emperor of Qin was too terrifying in this aspect. Now that she had heard it with her own ears, Shuer completely believed the rumors. Suddenly, a cry of pain sounded out, causing Shuer's body to tremble. It was Moli's voice, which was Shuer's daughter. Hearing that her daughter was being ravaged by the Emperor of Qin, Shuer angrily rushed into the tent. Seeing the erotic scene within the tent, as well as the flesh and desire spreading around, Shuer's body trembled. There was also a faint six desires demonic chi floating in the air. Shuer breathed in the faint six desires demonic chi, and under the stimulation of the scenes and sounds, she could not control her body and leapt onto Zhao Fu's body. Zhao Fu looked at such an alluring woman, and this was what he liked, so the two of them quickly started to do it. Dispirited, Moyue returned to the tent and did not see his mother waiting there. He let out a sigh of relief. With his mother's personality, she should have left long ago. However, in the next moment, Moyue's body softened, and he powerlessly knelt on the ground. He looked at the tent in a daze because the sounds of his mother and another man could be heard, and the reaction was extremely intense. Although he had eavesdropped on his father and mother doing it a few times, it was the first time he had heard his mother so happily and excitedly. Without even thinking, he knew that his mother was happily doing it with the Emperor of Qin and Qin Emperor like a slut. After half a day, torches were lit to illuminate the surroundings, and the sounds only stopped. Moyue gave a twisted smile as he softly asked, "Great Qin's Majesty, may I come in now?" Moyue had been standing outside the tent the entire time, listening to the sounds of his mother and Great Qin's Emperor doing it. Under the stimulation, he started to like this feeling. Zhao Fu lightly nodded and silently leapt into the tent. Within the tent, the woman had already put on her clothes again. Her face was ruddy, and she had a faint smile on her face. His mother and little sister were currently lying in the Great Qin Emperor's embrace, and his little sister was happily smiling as she hugged the Great Qin Emperor, looking like she had fallen in love with him. His mother and little sister were lying in the embrace of the Emperor of Qin. His little sister smiled happily and hugged the Emperor of Qin, looking as if she had fallen in love with him. "Also, don't worry, I won't do anything. I can do it in front of you, and the beasts and tribe stones are yours. You should be able to control them. Also, don't worry, I won't do anything. I can do it in front of you, and the beasts and tribe stones will be yours. You should be able to control them." The tribe stones were city lord seals, and although they had different names, their functions were the same. Hearing that he would only help them with the transformation of their battle beasts and not obtain the method, Moyue felt quite angry. He had sacrificed his mother and little sister, but he had not obtained the method to nurture battle beasts. "Good husband, please help my son." Shuer did her part and kissed Zhao Fu on the cheek as she said coquettishly to Zhao Fu. She wanted to help the Mater tribe and obtain the most benefits. Moyue looked at his mother hugging someone else, calling him husband, and kissing him. Most of the anger in his heart disappeared, and he instead felt quite excited. Facing Shuer's intimate actions, Zhao Fu felt quite embarrassed. Now, he understood that the beautiful woman in front of him was Moyue's mother, and she was the Mater tribe chief's woman. He couldn't help but marvel at the ferocity and chaos of the tribe world. However, Zhao Fu was not someone who would do anything for a woman, so he said, this is all Qin can do. However, I can help you transform as many battle beasts as you have. All right, I promise. A skinny middle-aged man walked in from outside the tent. It was the Mater tribe chief, Moke. Even though Moke was not here, he constantly received information about this place. He understood that this was Great Qin's greatest concession, so he directly agreed. Now that the tribe had 4,000 tribe stones, they could directly have 4,000 terrifying battle beasts. Thinking about that terrifying power, coupled with the various excellent equipment provided by Qin, the Mater tribe could instantly sweep away all the surrounding forces. When Shui saw Moke, her eyes were filled with resentment. He had actually given her away just like that. Fortunately, not only could Zhao Fu satisfy her, but he could also let her enjoy extreme pleasure. In addition to Zhao Fu's incomparably handsome appearance and extraordinary temperament, Shui was actually very surprised to meet Zhao Fu. If she hadn't met such an extraordinary and powerful man like Zhao Fu, Shui's eyes would have been filled with resentment. Zhao Fu smiled and nodded. At the same time, he was a little more careful with Moke. A person who could give away his beloved woman was definitely not ordinary. The two sides quickly signed a contract, and Zhao Fu took out a sum of strategic resources to give to the Mater tribe. This made the Mater tribe pleasantly surprised, and they could not help but feel more confident. Following that, Zhao Fu also began to help the Mater tribe transform their battle beasts. The Mater tribe also specially selected 4,000 extremely powerful and ferocious desolate crow beasts. These desolate crow beasts did not refer to just one type of creature, but included all kinds of wild beasts in the desolate crow world. For example, there were tigers, lions, crocodiles, elephants, black apes. Many of the wild beasts looked the same as normal beasts, but they had one thing in common, which was that there was a piece of black skin or scales on their heads. Zhao Fu fused the tribe's stones into them, and waves of ferocious aura erupted. The Mater tribe, who had already made various preparations, began to attack the surrounding forces at the same time and issued a challenge to the 10th Overlord, CG. Chapter 1333. At the beginning, the Mater tribe split into 3 armies and simultaneously attacked in 3 directions. They swept through everything in their path, as the surrounding factions were completely unprepared. Before there was an overlord, the various factions would have been wary of each other. However, now that there was an overlord, no one dared to casually attack other tribes. After all, the overlord had the authority to mobilize all of the tribes to attack another tribe, and no one dared to do so. If the Mater tribe did not have Qin support, they would not have dared to do such a thing. Only with Qin support did they dare to directly face off against CG. Roar, roar, roar. Massive desolate crow beasts gave massive roars and ferociously destroyed defensive structures. They gave off shocking auras and were completely unstoppable. The enemy quickly gathered their forces and came to resist, but they had never thought that they would encounter a group of massive beasts. Looking at the 100-meter-tall massive beasts, they felt a sense of fear, and the desolate crow beasts savagely leapt towards the army. A massive black ape leapt into the army and crushed dozens of people into meat paste. It swung its massive arm, bringing with it a powerful gale, and soldiers' bodies were blasted away like sand. A massive red-furred tiger leapt into the crowd and started to randomly bite, turning soldiers into mincemeat. It turned its body and swung its tail, sending many soldiers flying. Its power could easily shatter a soldier's chest. An elephant that was as big as a small mountain rampaged through the army, and no one was able to stop it. Countless people were sent flying and died on the spot, and even more people were crushed into meat paste by its massive foot. The enemy had no way to deal with the massive beasts, and countless beasts rushed into the army, causing many people to panic and die. The army fell into chaos. However, many people rushed up and fought with the massive beasts, and some used bows and arrows to shoot. However, they were too weak, and some were unable to harm the massive beasts. Some were able to injure the massive beasts, but they were only lightly injured. The pain stimulated the massive beast's ferocity, causing them to become even more savage and ferocious as they attacked the enemy soldiers, causing the death toll to continuously rise. At the same time, the people of the Mater tribe also launched an attack. Taking advantage of the chaos, arrows flew out like black shadows, killing soldiers one by one. Some of them raised the weapons provided by Qin, roared, and rushed into the chaotic crowd, killing the enemy soldiers wantonly. Everything happened so suddenly that the forces around the Mater tribe had no time to react. They did not expect the Mater tribe to have such a terrifying combat power, and they were all taken down by the Mater tribe. After destroying the surrounding large factions, Moke didn't bother with the surrounding smaller factions and attacked the larger factions further away. The surrounding smaller factions all surrendered in fear, and Moke didn't need to do anything. The Mater tribe's sudden provocation of war and their explosive power shocked the entire Desolate Crow tribe. What's going on? How did the Mater tribe suddenly become so powerful? Also, how did the Mater tribe obtain that terrifying beast? Also, how did they dare to fight against the entire Desolate Crow world by themselves? Everyone felt quite confused and couldn't understand what was going on. However, they understood that the Mater tribe was coming in ferociously and the Desolate Crow world was about to fall into chaos. At that moment, the Mater tribe's arrogant words of challenging the overlords resounded throughout the Desolate Crow world. They used the excuse that CG was not part of the Desolate Crow tribe and was an outsider, as well as Qin's sinner. This also meant that the Mater tribe had obtained Qin's support and was about to become the Desolate Crow overlord. Hearing this, everyone in the Desolate Crow world felt their hearts sink. They were now certain that a terrifying war was about to erupt in the Desolate Crow world. Now that the Qin Empire had intervened, the Mater tribe had become incredibly powerful with its support. It would be very difficult to destroy them, especially since the Qin Empire could send troops to help the Mater tribe at any time. With the Qin Empire's terrifying strength as their backing, it was no wonder that the Mater tribe dared to be so arrogant, directly challenging the overlord and going against all the tribes in the Desolate Crow world. However, now that the Mater tribe had Qin's support, many tribes probably didn't want to get involved because the losses would be huge. Right now, no one knew how many people were still on CG's side. Although the overlord had the right to mobilize many tribes would not follow orders 100%. They would also resist or even ignore orders. If the Mater tribe didn't have the support of the Qin Empire, they would naturally stand on CG's side. This was because if they gathered together, they could easily destroy the Mater tribe. However, now that the Mater tribe had the support of Qin, they would have to pay a huge price to destroy it, and they might even be destroyed instead. In the face of such a huge price and death, how could anyone listen to CG? CG, the overlord, would become an empty shell overlord. At the same time, everyone understood that the Mater tribe's massive war beast had most likely been provided by Qin. Hearing that the Qin Empire was supporting the Mater tribe, CG's eyes became filled with fury, and his hatred towards Zhao Fu became even greater. Following this, CG held an overlord conference and invited the various tribes to come and discuss how to deal with the Mater tribe. However, only 7 or 8 factions came, and they were the factions that were on good terms with the Sea tribe and were the most reliable allies. Apart from them, not a single one came. This made CG so angry that he slammed the table and furiously left the Desolate Crow world. With his current strength, it would be very difficult for him to defend against the Mater tribe with Qin's help. As such, he had to invite the Devil Horn Empire to help him. After hearing about this and realizing Qin's plan, Yao Ming naturally could not allow Qin to do as he wished and use the Mater tribe to control the Desolate Crow world. He would definitely support CG and have him resist the Mater tribe. Of course, Yao Ming did not want to lose a large number of forces for nothing, so he signed an agreement with CG. If CG once again obtained the position of overlord, he would cede half of his territory to the Devil Horn Empire. Facing the greedy Devil Horn Empire, CG did not hesitate to agree because he did not have any other choice. Yao Ming was quite satisfied and sent a large number of devil beasts, equipment, and war resources to CG. Taking these things, CG returned to the desolate Crow world. The first thing he did was gather his tribe's forces and a few tribes that he had good relations with before attacking the surrounding tribes. That's right, CG did not immediately attack the Mater tribe and instead attacked the surrounding tribes. This was because he understood the weakness of not having a unified authority. It was impossible to truly mobilize the power of an entire world. The many tribes could also make him a mere figurehead, not having to listen to his orders and dispatches. In fact, they could even not give him any face, making him an overlord in name, but not a true ruler. Chapter 1334. In the end, CG decided to act like the Mater tribe and quickly expand his strength to obtain the greatest benefits, rather than foolishly defend. After all, the factions conquered by the Mater tribe had nothing to do with him, and CG did not care whether they lived or died. The tribes around the Sea tribe had never thought that CG would not attack the incredibly arrogant Mater tribe and instead attack them. Adding on the Devil Horn Empire's Devil Beast help, they were unable to resist at all and were swept aside by CG. Countless devil beasts roared, and massive amounts of devil chi filled the heavens and earth. That massive aura was unstoppable, causing countless people to fall into terror. Similarly, as CG destroyed some large tribes, the smaller tribes surrendered in fear. After all, these smaller tribes did not have any strength to resist at all, so they could only surrender. Facing CG's sudden attack, the desolate Crow tribe's various tribes looked quite confused. They had never thought that CG would do such a thing, causing their hearts to tighten. Before, they did not want to participate in this battle because they did not want to suffer heavy losses. If two empires joined in, the casualties would be unimaginable. As such, they could only choose to remain neutral to avoid this. However, CG had acted against them first, causing them to fall into a battle that was unavoidable. CG had attacked them from the front, and the Mater tribe was wildly expanding. The remaining factions hurriedly allied together to resist CG and the Mater tribe, but the situation was not looking good. These two factions were the most powerful factions in the desolate Crow world, and with the help of the two empires, they became even more powerful. The allied factions were continuously pushed back by these two factions, and countless people died. The battle continued for 7 days, but it did not end. It was now the most important moment. The various tribes gathered their forces and split into two groups, wanting to defend against CG and the Mater tribe's attacks. On the other hand, the Mater tribe had already swept away countless tribes and swallowed their power to become a huge monster. Their military force had already reached a terrifying 2 billion. Most importantly, the power had been unified. These military forces and generals would all listen to the orders of one person, and there would be no objections. Moke's blood surged as he looked at the tide-like soldiers, bringing with them a vast and terrifying aura. His heart was filled with boundless pride. Today, he did not want to be an overlord. He wanted to be the desolate Crow race's first king, the desolate Crow King. He wanted to unify the desolate Crow world and create a new era so that the desolate Crow race's history would forever remember him. When he thought of this, Moke let out a wild laugh. Recently, without his wife Shui, Moke's chi and blood quickly recovered. He became strong and powerful, and his ambition also surged. Now, facing the final resistance from all sides, in order to raise morale, Moke was conferred king in advance and became the first desolate Crow King. The Mater tribe also officially changed its name to Aragua Province. The Mater tribe had completed an unprecedented feat. It was their first time establishing a kingdom and conferring king, and all of the Mater tribe people were incredibly excited. Their blood burned as they roared towards the sky, celebrating and welcoming the establishment of Aragua Province. Using this fervent aura, Moke started to attack all of the other tribes. CG did not fall behind. and he eagerly fulfilled the Sea family's dream of establishing his own kingdom. Hearing that the Mater tribe had publicly established a kingdom, he also started to announce the establishment of a kingdom, and the Great Xia dynasty officially appeared in the world. Countless people from the CG tribe excitedly celebrated. They had ended the era of tribes and entered the era of dynasties. At the same time, CG used this high morale to launch a final attack on all of the other tribes. All of the tribes were gloomy. Facing the powerful morale of both sides, they did not have the confidence to defend against both sides. Roar! 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 The battle beasts of Aragawa province loudly roared, bringing with them an incredibly ferocious aura. They ferociously rushed towards the soldiers of the other tribes, and their aura seemed to be suffocating. Now, the number of battle beasts in Aragawa province had reached 30,000, and they charged together with unstoppable momentum. They broke through the defenses that the various tribes had temporarily built, and countless Aragawa province soldiers roared as they rushed towards the soldiers of the other tribes. Facing such a terrifying attack, the various tribes had long since become terrified and were powerless to defend. After fighting for a while, countless tribe soldiers had already escaped. The Aragawa province soldiers ferociously chased after the tribe soldiers, and it was time to enjoy the fruits of their victory. The Aragawa province soldiers savagely grinned as they rushed into the various tribes. Seeing women, they did not care if they were beautiful or ugly, and they would press them down on the ground, tear off their clothes, and violate them. Not many soldiers fought over average-looking women, as they could vent by themselves. However, for beautiful women, many soldiers would violate them at the same time. They continuously struggled and cried, unable to resist at all, and could only be violated by those people in despair. Not everyone was interested in women, and some people rushed into the tribes and started a massacre. They killed anyone they saw, chopping off children's heads as spoils of war, or chopping up useless elderly people, enjoying the pleasure of killing. There were also many people who rushed into tents to take their belongings. Those who hid in tents naturally did not have good fates. If it was an ordinary person, they would have been hacked to death, but some people who could not find their belongings would vent their anger on those people. They would cut off large pieces of flesh from those people's bodies and use fire to burn their wounds, turning the wounds into charcoal, and those people would die from the pain. Zhao Fu hugged Shui, and flew in the sky. His expression did not change at all, as he had seen this many times, and he did not show any signs of stopping them. Seeing such a bloody and cruel massacre, Shui did not react at all. This sort of thing happened quite often in the tribe, so she did not have much of a reaction. The two of them landed on the ground, and Zhao Fu mainly came to personally check on the situation. Before, he had directly received reports and had never personally seen it, so he wanted to confirm it and decide on his future plans. Seeing that there was no one around, Shui lay on a tree and raised her bottom. Her cheeks were red, and she looked at Zhao Fu flirtatiously as she said, "Good husband, now that you've seen the situation, hurry up and do me." Zhao Fu felt quite helpless. This beautiful woman was incredibly thirsty and wanted him at any time. No wonder Moke would give her to him. An ordinary man would definitely die for her. However, she could have become the first desolate Crow King's queen, and even though she had been given to him, their relationship was quite special. Everyone knew that she was Moke's only woman, and she was their young master's mother. Chapter 1335. Looking at Zhao Fu ravaging Shui, the golden dragon suddenly said, "Zhao Fu, why don't you make her an empress?" Zhao Fu looked quite confused and did not know why the golden dragon would say such a thing. So he asked, "What's the reason?" The golden dragon replied, "Her constitution is quite special, and it's possible that she'll become pregnant with your child. With your divine bloodline, it's almost impossible for other women to become pregnant with your child." Zhao Fu could not help but stop and think to himself. However, Shui was unwilling and looked at Zhao Fu flirtatiously as she begged, "Husband, hurry up and do me." A while later, Shui-Er's face was completely red as she sweetly hugged Zhao Fu and walked into the army camp. Zhao Fu had long since made his decision and did not want to make Shui an empress. It was not because she was promiscuous, but because Zhao Fu did not want to make her an empress at all. There was no great reason for him to treat all women equally. Mother. Moyue gave an excited smile as he looked at his red-faced mother, who gave off an alluring aura. She had most likely just been done by Zhao Fu. She really was a promiscuous woman who wanted to be done by a man at any time. Fortunately, Zhao Fu could help her, or else how many men would it take to satisfy her? The hegemons of the previous generations needed thousands of men to be satisfied. Did that mean that his mother needed 1,000 as well? Thinking about that, Moyue felt quite excited. Shui-Er's face became red, and she buried her head in Zhao Fu's embrace. She knew that after she and Zhao Fu had gotten together, she had become more and more promiscuous. There were many rumors about her, and most of them were true. She could not face Moyue as a mother. She did not know that her son's heart was already twisted, and she could not imagine all of the twisted thoughts in his mind. Zhao Fu calmly said a few words to Moyue before bringing Shui-Er into the tent. There was a meeting going on, and seeing Zhao Fu arrive, they all got up and smiled at Zhao Fu. It could be said that the Mater tribe had today's achievements and could reward Aragawa province because of the support of the Qin Empire. Without the support of the Qin Empire, they couldn't have done it. Shui-Er let go of Zhao Fu and didn't hug Zhao Fu anymore. Moke was now the first Baron Crow King and her ex-husband, so she had to give him some face. Otherwise, Shui-Er wouldn't want to leave Zhao Fu's side for even a minute. Although they had just done it, Shui-Er wanted to wait until the meeting was over before doing it with Zhao Fu again. Thinking about this, she couldn't help but think of Moyue. I don't think he'll be able to forgive his promiscuous mother. After obtaining victory in Aragawa province, they had obtained half of the desolate Crow world's territory. However, the other half was occupied by CG's Great Xia dynasty because they had also won the final battle. Now, the desolate Crow world did not have as many complicated factions and tribes as before, and there were only two major factions, the Golden Crow Kingdom and the Great Xia dynasty. All of the other tribes had either submitted or been destroyed. Not only had countless desolate Crow people died in this internal battle, but countless tribes had also disappeared. The battle had spread everywhere, and no one had been able to escape. The desolate Crow world had suffered a catastrophe. Now, both factions had the support of two large empires, and the world had been split in half. It could be said that all of this had been caused by CG. If it wasn't for the fact that he wanted to ally with the Devil Horn Empire to destroy Qin, Qin would not have interfered, and such a terrifying outcome would not have happened. This was a warning to the surrounding worlds that it was best not to participate in the battle between the two empires, or else the desolate Crow world would become a living example. The surrounding alliance's expressions were quite serious, and they took this matter quite seriously. They had never thought that the two empires would have such great power to directly split apart a world. If the two empires did the same to them, how could they stop them? In order to deal with this, they set up armies and people to prevent this from happening. If they found any worlds or kingdoms related to the two empires, they had to be destroyed as soon as possible to prevent them from harming the alliance. This measure caused the 10 or so worlds to become quite tense. All sorts of spies ran about, gathering all sorts of information and preventing the two empires from infiltrating. The battle in the desolate Crow world was not over yet. Not only did Aragawa province want to unify the world, but the Great Xia dynasty also wanted to unify the world. Roar! 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 Aragawa province's countless war beasts gave off roars and gave off world-shaking auras as they rushed towards the Great Xia dynasty. Roar! 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 The Great Xia dynasty's devil beasts also gave off massive roars and gave off an aura that caused people to feel despair as they ferociously rushed toward Aragawa province, as if nothing could stop them. Bang! 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 The gigantic beasts ferociously clashed against each other, giving off muffled sounds. Shockwaves blasted out as the two sides began to fight. blood continuously flew everywhere, and pained screams continuously sounded out. The scene of the battle was shocking to behold. The soldiers of both sides also fought together, and the situation was also very intense. The soldiers fought fiercely, and it was either you die or I live. The clanging sounds of weapons colliding were endless, and the battle cries were deafening. The smell of blood was so thick that it made people want to vomit. The battle lasted for an entire day, and both sides suffered heavy losses. Neither side was able to gain any advantage, and in the end, they could only stop fighting. Both sides were quite shocked at each other's battle strength. After all, with their strength, they could sweep through the desolate crow world, but they were still stopped by the other side. After all, they were mainly relying on the strength of the two empires, while the Qin Empire and Devil Horn Empire could not do anything to each other. CG understood that if he wanted to defeat Aragawa province, he needed other powers to join, so he asked Yao Ming to send reinforcements. Yao Ming did not refuse, and he sent 1 billion soldiers to help CG unify the desolate crow world. This way, he would be able to obtain half of the world. After hearing about this, everyone in Aragawa province felt quite startled. The two sides' strength was about the same, and if the Devil Horn Empire sent reinforcements, Aragawa province would definitely lose. As such, they could only look to Zhao Fu. Right now, only the Qin Empire could help them. Husband, Shui politely called out. She naturally wanted to help Aragawa province. Seeing the woman he had once been incredibly infatuated with helping him, Moke felt quite grateful and guilty. If his body was a bit stronger, he would not have given her to Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu nodded and agreed to send reinforcements. In actuality, even if they did not say anything, Zhao Fu would have sent reinforcements anyway. After all, Zhao Fu could not allow the desolate crow world to fall into CG's hands. Chapter 1336. After this matter concluded, Zhao Fu brought his women back to the Qin Empire. After receiving the news, he was delighted and went to a blood lake. Looking at the massive creature within it, he smiled. Now, he could make a move against the spirit light world. However, because they were attacking a world, Zhao Fu did not dare to be careless. He gathered his subordinates to discuss, and the most important thing was to prevent the Devil Horn Empire from making any trouble. If the Devil Horn Empire ferociously attacked, the Qin Empire would not be able to mobilize its forces to attack a world. As such, they had to deal with the Devil Horn Empire first. At the same time, the alliance's strength could not be underestimated, and they might be able to cause trouble. In the end, they found that the Devil Horn Empire was preparing to make a move against the neighboring worlds. To the right was the Lontong world, which was often bullied by the Devil Horn Empire and greatly weakened. As such, the Devil Horn Empire was able to easily destroy it. To the right of the Devil Horn Empire was the Rock Spirit world. Rock spirits were a race that was born from rocks. Their bodies were almost completely made of rocks, and their appearances were difficult to distinguish. Not only did they have powerful defenses, but they were also very difficult to kill. Rock spirits were part of the spirit race, which was the race with the least population out of the 8 major races. However, they were not weak and were quite difficult to deal with. Even though they were right next to the Devil Horn Empire, under normal circumstances, the Devil Horn Empire did not want to make a move against them. However, now that there was a perfect opportunity, the Devil Horn Empire could not help but want to destroy the Rock Spirit world. Now that the Rock Spirit King of the Rock Spirit world had died, the various Rock Spirit Lords wanted to fight for the position of Rock Spirit King. Now that the Devil Horn Empire was in a state of chaos, attacking them was the best opportunity. There was also a kingdom that supported the Devil Horn Empire, which was the Woodleaf Spirit Kingdom. They were also from a spirit race and had ways to suppress rock spirits, as would counter Earth. However, they were not helping the Devil Horn Empire for free. They wanted the Devil Horn Empire to send all of the rock spirits they killed to the Woodleaf Spirit Kingdom. They did not say why, but everyone understood that rock spirit corpses would be of great help to them. The Woodleaf Spirit Kingdom only treated the Devil Horn Empire as a tool and only provided some technology in exchange for the Devil Horn Empire to obtain a large number of rock spirit corpses. Yao Ming did not refuse and happily agreed. This was because he really wanted the rock spirit world, and it was right next to him. If he wanted to become a kingdom, the rock spirit world would be an obstacle, and he had to get rid of it. However, the Devil Horn Empire was worried that the Qin Empire and allied factions would interfere, so was thinking of a way to deal with this. After hearing about this, Zhao Fu let out a sigh of relief. Even though the Devil Horn Empire was going to conquer a world, Qin would be able to take this opportunity to conquer a world. Moreover, the alliance's attention would be drawn to the Devil Horn Empire and would not be on Qin. Moreover, the Spirit Light world was a novice world, and it was within a protective barrier, so attacking it would be more secretive and would not cause as much of commotion as outside. Gather the army. Under Zhao Fu's order, Qin City, a huge war machine, started to move at full speed. Teams of people wearing black armor and holding black weapons walked in unison, their gazes cold. They started to gather, and a murderous aura filled the air. This time, Zhao Fu Qin brought 10 billion soldiers, half of which were beasts, and the rest were responsible for defending against any sudden attacks from the Devil Horn Empire and the Alliance. The army majestically advanced like a black tide, giving off a world-shaking aura. Even gods and demons could not stop them, and all creatures fell into terror. Now that the dark demon world had been conquered by Qin City could directly go to the Spirit Light world. Qin City did not have a way to transport large numbers of people across worlds, and if he relied on the teleportation formation from before, it would take him at least 10 years to transport 10 billion soldiers. However, now that Zhao Fu had Yuling, he could directly destroy the heavenly domain boundary and would not have to go through the trouble of using teleportation formations. Yuling's small body walked up and placed his hand on the heavenly domain boundary. After being nurtured by Qin City, Yuling had truly grasped his own power. Ripples of light spread out from Yuling's hand, and the heavenly domain boundary started to tremble. As more and more ripples of light spread out, the heavenly domain boundary started to tremble. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded out as countless cracks appeared on the heavenly domain boundary, following which rainbow-colored shards fell from the sky, smashing open large craters in the ground with shocking sounds. After everything settled, a massive city wall appeared in front of Qin City and the others, and there were countless people hurrying towards the city wall. Ever since the Dark Demon world had been destroyed by Qin City, the Spirit Light world had hurriedly built this massive city wall in order to stop Qin City. Moreover, under the threat of Qin City destroying the Dark Demon world, the Spirit Light world had banded together and used all sorts of precious materials to build this city wall. This was because they had personally seen Qin destroy the Dark Demon world, causing them to hide in a corner, not daring to show themselves. It could be said that this city wall's defenses were 7 or 8 times stronger than ordinary city walls. Moreover, the various factions had all gathered together. Only a single battle would decide the Spirit Light world's fate. If they could stop Qin City, the Spirit Light world would continue to exist. If they could not, they would all be destroyed, and the Spirit Light world would disappear. Now, there were roughly 14 billion Spirit Light people on the city wall. With such a large number of people, not all of them were soldiers, and most of them were ordinary residents. The auras they gave off caused the entire world to tremble. However, Zhao Fu continued to stand in the sky and gave a confident smile as he said loudly, "Don't think that you can stop Qin City. Your fates have long since been decided. Now, you can only submit or die." There were a total of 7 people on the other side, 1 world protector and 6 legatees. The world protector was naturally Cayman. He had many grievances with Zhao Fu, and he looked at Zhao Fu hatefully. The other 6 legatees, 4 men and 2 women, looked at Zhao Fu seriously and gave off powerful auras. They were the most powerful people in the Spirit Light world. Facing Zhao Fu's words, Cayman coldly harumphed and did not say anything. He did not show any signs of attacking, and he was afraid of angering Qin City's side, so he controlled his emotions. Seeing that they were ignoring him, Zhao Fu's gaze became cold, and just as he was about to give the order to attack, "Your Majesty, there's an urgent report from the rear. An army of 10 billion soldiers is heading towards Qin City." A general flew to Zhao Fu's side and said respectfully as he cupped his hands and lowered his head. Chapter 1337. Zhao Fu was expressionless. The Alliance's 10 billion soldiers were from the outside world, and whether it was in terms of cultivation or equipment, they were naturally stronger than the spirit light world and would not be so easy to deal with. Soon, Zhao Fu made a decision, and the countless generals started to retreat to the Qin border. "We've won!" Countless cheers sounded out. Seeing that the Qin Empire had retreated, the spirit light people felt that they had won this battle without even fighting. Facing Qin's ferocious attacks, the spirit light people had felt quite afraid. However, they had defeated Qin so easily without losing a single soldier. This was simply unimaginable, and they could not help but feel excited. However, their smiles quickly froze because Qin had only retreated a portion of his soldiers, and there were still many soldiers who had not moved at all. Zhao Fu had ordered 3 billion soldiers to defend the Qin border and 7 billion soldiers to continue attacking the spirit light world. However, the entire army was not retreating. "Attack!" Zhao Fu gave the order, and Qin's army started to attack. Powerful arrows flew out, causing the air to seem to explode, and a dangerous aura caused people's hairs to stand on end. Even though they did not have any talisman arrows because they lacked talisman stones, Qin's ballistae and Stage 2 archers' arrows had massive destructive power, and a black wave of arrows rained down towards the spirit light people. The spirit light people had been preparing to defend against Qin, and they had definitely made powerful preparations. As the countless arrows shot over, a massive defensive barrier appeared, blocking the countless arrows. Cayman and the other legatees did not come out to fight with Zhao Fu. Even though Cayman had a clan armament, it was only the power of a clan armament and did not even have a world's energy. How could he resist Zhao Fu, who had 3 worlds' energy? The spirit light people were quite clear about this, and they did not hope to defeat Qin and only hoped to stop Qin. As such, they had set up countless defensive magic formations and restrictions. The arrows that were shot out did not affect the defensive barrier at all. Roar, roar, roar. The beasts gave off massive roars and gave off terrifying auras as they rushed up, vigorously attacking the barrier and giving off muffled sounds. Countless soldiers rushed up and exploded out with their power as they attacked the barrier. Countless saber lights and sword images slashed against the barrier, and adding on the ferocious beast attacks. No matter how powerful the barrier was, it could not withstand so many attacks. Soon, the defensive barrier began to tremble. It would probably be broken soon. The spirit light people could not just stand by and watch, allowing Qin to destroy the barrier. As such, they also attacked, causing arrows to fly towards the beasts and soldiers. The beasts and soldiers blocked, but many of them were still hit. Now, Qin's side was quite passive. He could not attack the spirit light people and was instead being attacked by the spirit light people. Zhao Fu could not continue watching and directly used his nation armament's power. An enormous blood-red sword light containing berserk sword wind shot out, seeming to be able to split the heavens and earth. Boom! The sword light ferociously slammed against the defensive barrier, resulting in a massive explosion. Adding on the attacks of the countless beasts and soldiers, the defensive barrier violently trembled and a crack soon appeared on it. This caused the countless spirit light people to feel greatly shocked. They had paid a great price to prepare this defensive barrier, but it had been shattered so easily. They did not hesitate and immediately used their trump cards. Boom, boom, boom. Countless magic formations were activated as pillars of light containing terrifying power shot into the sky, giving off intense light. It was as if there were tens of thousands of pillars of light standing between the heavens and earth, giving off shocking auras. These magic formations were all support magic formations, and they sent all sorts of power into the defensive barrier, causing the violently trembling defensive barrier to gradually stabilize. White-robed spirit light priests appeared barefoot on the city walls. They closed their eyes and lightly spread out their hands as they started to chant. The words they chanted sounded like poems and scriptures, and their bodies gave off intense white light before disappearing. The sky gave off boundless white light that covered the ground. It was slightly blinding and gave off a powerful might, causing people to feel immense pressure. Boom, boom, boom. Massive pillars of white light descended as countless powerful auras exploded out. Figures that were 100 meters tall appeared within the pillars of light. These figures were all men without hair and had well-built figures. They were bare-chested and had solemn and dignified expressions. There was a ring of light on their chests, and they looked like spirit light people that had been magnified countless times. However, the power they gave off was incredibly powerful. There were tens of thousands of them, and they stretched out their hands towards Qin's soldiers and beasts. A ring of light lit up on their palms, and countless rays of light containing light energy suddenly shot towards them. Qi, Qi, Qi. The rays of light easily pierced through the beasts and soldiers' bodies, causing cries to sound out. Blood sprayed everywhere as many beasts and soldiers died. Qin used the core formation to summon massive beasts that were over 1,000 meters long and attacked the spirit light god emissaries. The other beasts and soldiers continued to madly attack the defensive barrier, and the generals also used various methods. This was especially so for the generals with general armaments. They directly summoned their general star's power, and pillars of starlight blasted towards the defensive barrier, causing it to once again tremble. Arc. The spirit light people continuously attacked Qin's soldiers and roared as they exploded out with auras and rushed towards the magic formation in the sky. No one knew what they were summoning or gathering. The auras of 10 billion people were absorbed by the massive magic formation, and just thinking about it was incredibly terrifying. A destructive aura spread out as countless arcs of white lightning exploded out around the magic formation. Zhao Fu did not hesitate and used his trump card against the spirit light people. He came to the ground and pressed a hand against the ground. The golden pupil in his left eye quickly spun, and a formless ripple spread out. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded out as a massive black light shot out from the ground and rushed into the sky with terrifying power, causing the sky to tremble and the weather to change. The ground violently trembled as countless cracks appeared. A terrifying aura spread out from the cracks, causing all of the spirit light people's expressions to fall, and their bodies started to tremble. The ground rose up as an enormous creature slowly rose up from the ground. It was a massive head followed by a body, and in the end, it was completely revealed. A terrifying aura spread out in all directions, causing the heavens and earth to fall silent. Chapter 1338. This was the refined primogenitor statue. Originally, it would have taken hundreds of years to refine, but with the massive amount of blood that Qin had provided, it had taken Qin a few years to successfully refine the primogenitor statue. Zhao Fu had gone to see the primogenitor statue at the Blood Lake. Because the primogenitor statue was simply too big, there was not much that could fit inside it. As such, Zhao Fu had placed it in the sealed region so that he could summon it whenever he needed it. Countless spirit light people looked at the primogenitor statue in terror, and their hearts sank. Their bloodlines were filled with terror, and their power quickly disappeared in front of it. This was the primogenitor statue's greatest effect. It could weaken all spirit light people's power and suppress the spirit light people greatly. Hurry, gather all of your power and send it into the spirit light god world's magic formation. Cayman's expression was incredibly unsightly as he yelled to the people around him. The others came to their senses and exploded out with all of their power, sending it into the magic formation in the sky. This was their final hope. Zhao Fu coldly laughed and sat on the 100,000-meter-tall primogenitor statue's head. He controlled it to grab at the air, and a massive wave of sword chi exploded out, sending out a massive gale as a blood-red sword appeared. This blood-red sword was naturally massive, and there were black grass inscriptions on it. At the point where the sword and hilt connected, there was a carving of a large snake, seeming to bite onto the sword. There were also snake scales on the hilt. This sword gave off a massive and eerie aura, and it was like a large snake, causing people to feel terror. This sword was one of the refined Japan's 3 divine armaments, the Kusanagi sword, and it was also called the Kusanagi sword. The primogenitor statue gripped the Kusanagi sword and sent large amounts of power into it, causing it to give off a faint sword light as it vigorously slashed out. Shing! A sword hum tore through the sky. It was as if heaven and earth had been slashed apart by a sword. It was as if a wound had been opened outwards, revealing a dark area in the middle. A trace of blood light shot out, and the wound continued to extend until it slashed the spell formation. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded out as the massive magic formation was destroyed by that sword strike, giving off blinding light that covered the heavens and earth. A massive shockwave spread out like a super gale, uprooting countless trees and blowing countless people into the sky. This scene caused everyone to fall into a state of shock. It was just too terrifying and shocking. The primogenitor statue had used just one sword strike, but it felt like the world was about to be destroyed. The spirit light people fell into despair because that magic formation was their final hope. Now that it had been destroyed, their final hope was gone. Zhao Fu looked at the spirit light people in despair and did not feel any pity. His gaze was cold as he controlled the primogenitor statue to raise the Kusanagi no Tsurugi and sent large amounts of power into it. The Kusanagi no Tsurugi gave off an intense blood-red light that dyed the sky blood-red, and an even more terrifying aura of destruction spread out. Boom! The primogenitor statue slashed down, seeming to cause the heavens and earth to explode. A massive blood-red crescent containing enough power to destroy the heavens and earth slashed out, instantly slashing apart the spirit light people's defensive barrier. The sword chi it contained turned countless spirit light people on the defensive walls into meat paste. The defensive barrier was finally destroyed, and the impatient beasts and soldiers swarmed towards the defensive walls like a beehive. Countless massive flying beasts swooped onto the city walls and slaughtered wantonly. They used their sharp claws to cut open the spirit light people's bodies and open their mouths to devour the soldiers. Some used their massive bodies to send countless soldiers flying. The wyverns continuously spewed out flames and icy blasts, burning spirit light people into charcoal or freezing them. The massive corpse soul soldiers rushed to the defensive walls and ferociously smashed them against the defensive walls, killing people one after another. They also destroyed the defensive walls, and soon, cracks appeared on the defensive walls. The ones most suited for attacking were the spiders. They climbed up the tall defensive walls as if they were walking on flat ground, and their blade-like legs flashed past, cutting apart countless spirit light people's bodies, causing limbs and organs to fly everywhere. Qin's soldiers easily reached the defensive walls and started to slaughter the spirit light people. A soldier used a spear to pierce through a spirit light person's head. A soldier used an axe to split a spirit light person in half, and a soldier tore apart a spirit light person's body. Now that the primogenitor statue was present, the spirit light people's strength was greatly reduced. Normally, they would not be able to stop so many of Qin's beasts and soldiers, let alone now. Under Qin's berserk and ferocious attacks, countless spirit light people started to retreat, looking terrified. They did not dare to stay here, as they would definitely be killed by Qin soldiers. If they lost, the spirit light people would be finished. Seeing this, the various leaders sighed and understood that the situation was hopeless, so they started to retreat. Cayman's expression was quite unsightly as he hatefully looked at Zhao Fu before turning and running. Perhaps ordinary people would not be able to escape from the spirit light world, but he had something that could allow him to. Zhao Fu looked at Cayman's retreating figure with a cold expression and stood up from the primogenitor statue's head. The 6 gray dots in his right eye quickly spun as he lightly cried out, "Ghosts summon." A massive wave of ghostly chi spread out as a 1,000-meter-tall ghost, giving off a massive might, appeared behind Zhao Fu, and the aura in the surroundings became cold and eerie. Zhao Fu grabbed with his hand and lightly cried out, "Ghost God Soldier." The massive ghost behind him turned into countless rays of light and condensed in Zhao Fu's hand, forming a gray, ghostly spear covered with countless ghostly runes and giving off an eerie aura. Zhao Fu gripped this ghostly spear and sent large amounts of 6 paths of reincarnation power into it, causing countless ghostly images to appear on the ghostly spear. Boom! Zhao Fu vigorously threw out the ghostly spear, and it gave off terrifying power as it flew out. It gave off countless ghostly wails and howls as it streaked through the air, causing the heavens and earth to dim. Pooh! However, in the next moment, the ghostly spear pierced through Cayman's body, nailing him to the ground. Cayman's face was gray-white as his body had been corroded by the ghostly chi, and he was dead. He had never thought that he, Cayman, the world protector of the spirit light world, would die like this. After killing Cayman, Zhao Fu looked at the other legatees. The legatees who had been planning to run felt a chill in their hearts and looked terrified. They immediately knelt on the ground and lowered their proud heads, expressing their willingness to submit. Chapter 1339. The spirit light people desperately ran in terror, not daring to stay there for even a moment. It was as if there were ferocious beasts chasing after them. Arg! Pain cries sounded out as those who were too slow were caught up to. The black-armored Qin soldiers started to kill, slashing at the spirit light people's backs with their sabers, killing them in a single strike. Some used spears to pierce through their hearts, while others sliced off their heads with their swords. The Qin soldiers behind the spirit light people were even more terrifying than ferocious beasts. They were like a world-destroying black tide, giving off a dark aura that could destroy everything. Ta! 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 Great Qin's cavalrymen held their spears and started a charge, shooting out like arrows as they ferociously charged towards the escaping spirit light people. Chi! 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 The spirit light people continuously ran in terror, wanting to escape from the Qin soldiers' pursuit. However, how could they outrun the cavalrymen? Sharp black spears pierced through their chests, causing blood to fly everywhere. The cavalrymen galloped through the battlefield, stabbing out with their spears and brandishing their sabers, killing spirit light people one after another. No one was able to escape. Swish, 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 arrows containing immense power flew out, tearing through the air and descending like raindrops. The escaping spirit light people were pierced by the arrows, and some immediately died, while others fell to the ground and howled. Under Qin's slaughter, blood dyed the ground red, and someone finally knelt on the ground in terror, crying and begging Qin to spare him. Great Qin's soldiers, who had been hunting down the spirit light people, naturally spared him and continued to kill others. Seeing that they could live, the others all knelt on the ground. Qin controlled the escaping spirit light people and started to attack those cities. News of the spirit light people's defeat had long since spread, and the residents, who had been filled with hope, now looked terrified and filled with despair, not knowing what to do. The residents of some cities knelt outside the cities, waiting for Qin to subdue them. They had naturally been treated very well by Qin, but there were also some people who ran and resisted. Those people dragged their families and carried all kinds of luggage as they fled in a certain direction. Demonic beasts pounced over and began to devour these people wantonly. A large python quickly shot out, opened its mouth, and swallowed a family of 4, a pair of parents and 2 children. The python's stomach bulged into the shape of a human, and the 2 children died within a few seconds. The 2 adults struggled a few times in the python's stomach before dying. A tiger jumped out and looked cruelly at the people who were running away. It opened its big mouth and ate them happily. Its eating manner was quite bold. It wasn't as clean as the python, leaving blood and broken limbs everywhere. A demonic beast that looked like a crane was much more graceful. It pressed the 2 of them to the ground with its pair of claws, ignoring their cries and struggles and fear. Its sharp beaks pierced into their brains and sucked on their brains like soft tofu pudding. There was a huge hedgehog demonic beast. Although it had eaten its fill, it still wanted to preserve some food. It used the long spikes on its back to stab people and hang them on its back. Right now, there were more than 10 people hanging on its back. There were men and women, old and young. Their bodies were pierced by many spikes, and some of them were not completely dead yet. They let out weak and painful moans. Zhao Fu did not tell them not to eat people. Instead, they could eat as much as they wanted on the battlefield. To them, humans were incredibly nutritious food, and they could destroy enemies while also increasing their strength. Apart from the escaping people, there were also stubborn resistors in the cities. They were not willing to surrender to Qin, and they wanted to use the cities to resist Qin. In the end, Qin easily broke through their defenses and charged in, massacring them. He killed all of them, regardless of whether they were male or female, young or old. He did not accept those who surrendered, and he skinned them and hung them on the city walls, letting them howl in pain as they died. He could not show any mercy to these people. On this day, the spirit light world was blood red, and there was the smell of blood everywhere. There were endless screams, and the ground was covered with corpses. The skies seemed to be dyed blood red, and the wind moaned, bringing with it a sense of desolation. Zhao Fu had already arrived at the spirit light world's godly spirit palace and sat on a chair. After 4 days, Qin had completely taken control of the spirit light world, and the resistors had been eliminated. The godly spirit palace had originally been the most powerful faction in the spirit light world, which was Carmen's faction. The resistance here had been quite intense, and Qin had killed almost all of the people here. Now, there was a mountain of corpses outside. After hearing Bai Qi's report, Zhao Fu grinned. He had obtained even more from conquering the spirit light world than from conquering the dark demon world. He had obtained 46 billion people and nearly 80,000 cities. By now, Qin's population had reached 300 billion, which was a shocking number. However, thinking about it, it was not a lot, as this was the population of 4 worlds and more than half of the grassy and grassy worlds. In total, there were 7 worlds. He was only 3 worlds away from being able to rival a royal kingdom. Normally, a newly established royal kingdom would have around 400 billion people in 10 worlds. Now, there were 420,000 cities, and Qin could create tens of thousands of beasts. However, because the city's stats had been weakened, some of the beasts' strength had decreased. However, beasts were still one of Qin's most terrifying methods. Apart from the population and cities, there were also many resources. However, Zhao Fu had obtained a few good things. The first was the Spirit Light world's golden doors, which the Spirit Light race had used to invade the Dark Demon world. They allowed a large number of soldiers to fight across worlds. With these things, Qin would be able to fight across worlds and would no longer need to rely on Yuling. At the same time, these golden doors were of the lowest grade. If one could gather all of the precious materials required, they could create golden doors that could cross worlds. In other words, if one stepped out of this world, they would be able to travel to a few worlds away in the blink of an eye. Zhao Fu was quite delighted to be able to obtain these golden doors. The second item was something that the Spirit Light race had used before, which was to summon divine light saints. These were the 100-meter-tall giants that the white-robed priest had summoned in the previous battles, and they had powerful holy light energy. Because those priests were quite special, they had many restrictions. They could only summon 40,000 priests, which meant that they could only summon 40,000 divine light saints, making Zhao Fu feel quite disappointed. Chapter 1340. This was a god race stone, something that could only be produced in a god race world. It had immense divine power, and it was the most delightful thing that Zhao Fu had obtained. This was because this god ray stone could be fused with the 10,000 gravity origin stone from the Cosmos historical remnant to create a massive battle fortress that could fly in the sky. This type of fortress was called the War God's Fury, and it could cover an area of 100,000 kilometers. In other words, it was the size of a region. Just this size alone was enough to show how terrifying it was. If it rammed into a group of beasts, countless beasts would be smashed into meat paste. Apart from its massive size and undefeatable power, the War God's Fury could also use War God cannons, which are similar to cannons. However, they did not require gunpowder and instead relied on divine power to fire. There was also terminating light, which was the most terrifying ability of the battle fortress. It gathered all of its power to shoot out a ray of light that could destroy the heavens and earth. The War God's Fury was incredibly powerful, and ordinary kingdoms would not have it. Zhao Fu had obtained the two most important materials, as well as the blueprint that the Golden Dragon had given him. However, he was still lacking many things before he could complete it. He needed all sorts of top-tier talisman stones, which were at least orange grade. There were also all sorts of core materials, and all of them were incredibly precious. If Qin wanted to create the War God's Fury, it would take a long time. Finally, there was also a precious divinity. This divinity was different from ordinary divinity. It was a rainbow-colored luck goddess poem, and it could give many blessings of luck. In actuality, luck was a form of fate, and it could determine a person's fate. There were also blessings of fate, and even though this godly spirit's power was not very powerful, it was very useful. There were naturally very few of them, and there were many people in the heaven domain who captured luck goddesses to give blessings to their factions. As such, the luck goddess divinity was a priceless treasure even in the heaven domain. This divinity had originally belonged to an ancient spirit light family, and they had built a temple for it. However, because the spirit light world had been conquered by Qin, the divinity had naturally fallen into Qin's hands. Now, there were many godly spirits in Qin: the water god, life god, light god, desolate god, fallen angel god, and adding on the luck goddess, there were 6 godly spirits in total. Qin had left most of his forces behind to clear out the spirit light world. Zhao Fu wanted to take the spirit light world into Qin as quickly as possible so that it would become a part of Qin. After staying in the spirit light world for a few days, Zhao Fu did not worry about the other battlefield. Before, there had been 10 billion allied soldiers attacking Great Qin, but in actuality, it was just an attack and there was no actual battle. Seeing a large number of Great Qin's soldiers retreat, the alliance thought that their plan had succeeded, so they did not attack. Instead, they wanted to stall Great Qin because Great Qin was not easy to deal with, and they did not want to suffer heavy losses. However, in the end, the spirit light world had been destroyed by Qin, making the alliance's expressions become quite unsightly. They felt that the spirit light world was too useless. They had stalled so many of Qin's forces, but the spirit light world had still been destroyed by Qin. In actuality, it was not that the spirit light world was weak. As part of the spirit light race, they were quite powerful. However, facing Qin, they were quite weak. Ordinary worlds that had developed for dozens of years were not a match for Qin. So how could a new world like the spirit light world be a match for Qin? What's more, Qin had a trump card against the spirit light race, which was the primogenitor statue. Moreover, Zhao Fu had not used the primogenitor statue's full power, and he had not even used the Yasukani no Magatama or the Yada no Kata mirror. The 3 divine weapons perfectly fused with the primogenitor statue, and when they were used simultaneously, the primogenitor statue's full power would explode out. After hearing that the spirit light world had been destroyed, the Alliance army retreated without waiting for Qin to do anything. "Let me go, you tyrant, cruel, and cold-blooded beast. If you have the ability, kill me. Even if I die, I'll curse you to suffer boundless pain and make you beg for death." A woman bound by chains looked at Zhao Fu hatefully as she cursed at him. Zhao Fu held a chain and dragged this woman forwards. This woman had a head of soft, golden hair and a pair of golden eyes. She was extremely beautiful and wore a golden dress that was stained with blood. She had suffered many injuries and her hair was in a mess, making her look quite wretched. What was shocking was that she had 7 golden rings of light on her chest. This meant that she had the noblest and purest bloodline in the spirit light world. She was called a tranquil, and she was the #1 beauty of the spirit light world. She was also someone from the godly spirit palace and Cayman's only wife. She hated Zhao Fu so much not only because Zhao Fu had killed Cayman, but also countless people from the godly spirit palace. Zhao Fu felt quite impatient and pulled on the chain in his hand, causing a tranquil to stumble and almost fall to the ground. "Hurry up and leave. If you dare to curse at me again, I'll kill everyone else from the godly spirit palace." A tranquil felt quite angry, but thinking about the captured people from the godly spirit palace, she could only endure it and hatefully glared at Zhao Fu. "Seriously, what kind of method are you thinking of to torture women again?" Aracena walked out and looked at a tranquil with her beautiful eyes. She felt a trace of bitterness towards Zhao Fu. She could not bear to see what Zhao Fu had done to those women. Zhao Fu rolled his eyes at her and said, "Didn't you say that it's best to fall to the god race? Qin just conquered the spirit light world, and her bloodline is the highest grade bloodline in the spirit light world. I want to see the effects of falling." "Is that so? Let's begin then." Aracena looked at a tranquil before turning and walking away. Following this, the 3 of them went to the fallen land, and Aracena personally presided over the transformation while a tranquil stood on the stage and started the transformation. Darkness energy quickly gathered in the surroundings. Because she knew that a tranquil had the highest grade god race bloodline, Aracena also started the transformation, causing the sky to be covered by darkness. The surrounding light seemed to disappear, and the darkness was terrifying. Boom! A massive pillar of darkness heavily landed on a tranquil's body, causing her to half kneel on the ground. Countless traces of darkness energy corroded her body, causing her to feel immense pain and howl. The people around her were expressionless as they sent even more darkness energy into a tranquil's body, causing her body to absorb the darkness energy. The 7 golden rings on her chest became a black gold color. At that moment, a tranquil absorbed all of the darkness energy. Chapter 1341. Boom! An explosion sounded out as a wave of darkness energy exploded out from the half-kneeling a tranquil's body. It spread out like a black wave of light, seeming to corporeal as it blasted out. Zhao Fu casually waved his hand, and his Saint Realm domain appeared, easily blocking this wave of light. Whoosh! A black light flashed behind a tranquil, and her dress was torn into countless pieces, revealing her pure white back. 4 rows of black light shot out from her back, turning into 4 massive pairs of black wings of light that gave off a storm of darkness. Zhao Fu felt quite shocked and surprised. These were not ordinary wings, but black wings of light, and they were 8-winged angels. A tranquil's strength had been around stage 9 before, but now her strength had broken through the Saint Realm and reached the Earth Realm. This was quite a big leap, and even Zhao Fu was still at stage 9. The further he went, the more difficult it would be to advance. Aracena was also quite shocked and flew down from the sky as she said, "Her bloodline and constitution are of the highest grade in the god race, and she's from the light god race, so she has wings of light." A tranquil's holy aura disappeared and was replaced with a dark coldness. Her eyes had become a black and gold color, and she stood up from the ground and covered her chest with her hands as she looked at Zhao Fu with even more intense fury and hatred, seeming to be able to pierce one's eyes. She had been filled with immense fury and hatred, and because of the darkness energy, these 2 emotions became even more intense. "Congratulations, Your Majesty. You now have a beautiful and powerful concubine, The 24 god emissaries flirtatiously smiled as they surrounded Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile and walked over to a Thinkalai as he said in an irrefutable tone, "You're not bad. I'll make you a concubine and give you some fallen light angels. Your family will also become one of the top families in Qin City." A Thinkalai was infuriated and looked at Zhao Fu as she coldly laughed and said, "Is there something wrong with your head? Not only do you want me to serve you, but you also want me to work for you. Do you think I'll agree?" Zhao Fu grabbed her by the throat and raised her up as he expressionlessly said, "Is that so? Don't forget that your family and friends are all in my hands. Do you have the ability to refuse my orders?" Athena felt as if her throat was going to snap, and the intense feeling of suffocation caused her to instinctively struggle. Zhao Fu casually tossed her to the side and planned to bring a few ordinary fairy light race people to see the effects. Athenkalai fell to the ground, and even though she had Earth Realm power, she could not resist at all. Athenkalai felt wronged, angry, and helpless as she started to cry. The 24 oracles had a trace of sympathy, but they didn't go over to comfort her because Zhao Fu also didn't like her appearance. Erisina was quite interested in her, and she stroked her tear-stained, beautiful face as she said with a smile, "You should give up now. Even I can't resist that bastard now, so you don't stand chance. But I can give you the strongest power, so you won't be weak anymore. You won't feel powerless because you can't protect your family. Believe in me." Facing such a talented Athenkalai, Erisina wanted to subdue her and make her the strongest fallen angel under her god of fallen angels. Erisina believed that Athenkalai had this potential. After all, Athenkalai's power came from Erisina, and the spirit race felt close to godly spirits. Moreover, there was no one who could comfort her and rely on her. Athenkalai could not help but believe in Erisina because she needed even more power. As such, she stopped crying and her gaze became resolute. Erisina gave a trace of a smile and kissed Athenkalai's lips. Athenkalai's body froze, but she did not show any signs of rejection. Instead, she started to respond to Erisina. When Zhao Fu returned with the spirit light people, he found that Athenkalai's face was red as she stood beside Erisina. Erisina was looking at him flirtatiously. This was an expression that she would only reveal when she wanted to do it with Zhao Fu, as she had been aroused by Athenkalai. Zhao Fu did not mind and had the spirit light people convert. These people were the most ordinary spirit light people, but their strength was greatly increased, and they were even stronger than ordinary Qin soldiers. After ordinary Qin soldiers converted, they would grow a pair of black wings, and their strength would reach stage 3. The spirit light people would also grow a pair of black wings, and their strength would reach the peak of stage 3, and they would only be a step away from breaking through to stage 4. Thinking about having 10,000 peak stage 3 fallen light angels, Zhao Fu smiled in satisfaction and decided to only use the spirit light people's fallen light angels in the future and not other races. After dealing with this matter, Zhao Fu directly left because he still had many things to take care of. This caused Erisina, who had been waiting for a long time, to angrily harumph and return to her inner palace. The 24 god emissaries looked quite disappointed. Because of the war, Zhao Fu had not been intimate with them for almost a week. Back at the Rock Spirit World, with the Woodleaf Kingdom's help, Yao Ming had taken down the Rock Spirit World. Things had gone quite smoothly, and the things that he had been worried about had not happened. Because Carmen had asked for help from outside, the Alliance's attention was drawn to Qin, and they focused on Qin. This made it easier for the Devil Horn Empire to act. Even though the Alliance had sent out 8 billion soldiers to try and tie down the Devil Horn Empire, the Devil Horn Empire did not care at all and sent soldiers to guard the borders. With the Alliance's people's cowardice, they did not attack. Adding on the Rock Spirit World's internal strife and the things that the Woodleaf Kingdom had prepared to counter Rock Spirits, Yao Ming had been able to easily win this battle and had not paid a great price. The things that the Woodleaf Kingdom had given him were very effective. Now, there were countless rock person corpses on the ground, and there were countless plants growing on their bodies. It was these plants that easily killed the rock people. Otherwise, with the rock people's defenses, it would have been very difficult to kill them. Yao Ming put away the rock people corpses and planned to send them to the Woodleaf Kingdom. After obtaining so many rock spirit corpses, the relationship between the Woodleaf Kingdom and the Devil Horn Empire became much closer, and the Woodleaf Kingdom gave the Devil Horn Empire even more help. What made Yao Ming even happier was that he had obtained a method to create rock giants, which would greatly increase the Devil Horn Empire's strength. The Devil Horn Empire now had 3 worlds and 9 continents, and with such power, Yao Ming felt incredibly proud. However, after hearing that the Qin Empire had also conquered a world, his mood became quite bad. Chapter 1343. Any one of those people would be able to destroy the Tao cultivation sect, let alone higher beings. Even a few Emperor Heaven Realm experts would be something that the Tao cultivation sect would not be able to withstand. After all, the Tao cultivation sect was a faction from the outer domains, and their most powerful cultivator was only at the peak of the world realm. In the eyes of those existences, the Tao cultivation sect was just an ant-like existence that could be destroyed at any time. After receiving the news from Bai Shengjun, the Tao cultivation sect higher-ups were incredibly shocked. If it wasn't for Bai Shengjun coming from the Heaven Domain, they would not have believed that Zhao Fu would be so terrifying and cause such a big ruckus in the Heaven Domain. The Tao cultivation sect master felt incredibly regretful. If he had known this would happen, he would have disregarded everything and stopped the ancient sword sect before trying to get on good terms with Zhao Fu. It would have been best if he could have pulled him into the Tao cultivation sect. That would not have been a disaster, but a massive opportunity. However, now that things had happened, that person might have hated the Tao cultivation sect. This caused the Tao cultivation sect to feel a wave of terror, as the Tao cultivation sect might be destroyed at that person's hands. Bai Shengjun also warned the Tao cultivation sect not to participate in anything related to that person, or else even his master would not be able to protect the Tao cultivation sect. Now that that person was so dangerous that even higher beings felt a trace of fear and were not willing to participate, the Tao cultivation sect felt quite afraid. They quickly closed the sect and summoned back their disciples. They did not want to get involved in anything, nor did they want to offend Zhao Fu. They inwardly prayed that Zhao Fu would spare the Tao cultivation sect, or else the Tao cultivation sect would be completely destroyed. The various factions in the ancient STEM domain did not know why the Tao cultivation sect was so afraid. Could it be that a disaster was about to befall the ancient STEM domain? As such, they had investigated, but they did not receive any information. They could only feel quite confused and did not know what was going on. To the Tao cultivation sect, Zhao Fu's appearance was a disaster. The ancient sword sect, Bear Mountain Kingdom, and Netherine Dynasty had the greatest enmity with Zhao Fu, and the ancient sword sect had even greater enmity with Zhao Fu. The 3 factions were still searching for Zhao Fu and sending out all sorts of missions to kill Zhao Fu, wanting Zhao Fu to die without a grave. In the eyes of the Tao cultivation sect, they were not far from death, and there was absolutely no possibility of them surviving in the future. The last thing they wanted was to have anything to do with the 3 of them. Half a day later, Great Qin received news from the Greenwood Kingdom that they intended to betroth the Greenwood Kingdom's most prestigious princess, Princess Greenwood, to Great Qin. As long as Great Qin agreed, the Greenwood Kingdom would fully support Great Qin in becoming a royal kingdom. Moreover, they had another condition. They had heard that Qin did not have an empress, so they wanted Qin to make Princess Qingmu his empress, making her his only empress. Even though Princess Qingmu looked like a young girl, she was not young anymore. The Greenwood Kingdom had been looking for candidates for her this entire time, and Zhao Fu was undoubtedly the best choice. He was the king with the most potential in the ancient STEM domain. Of course, Princess Qingmu could not accept this. They wanted her to marry a man she had never seen before. Moreover, that man had countless concubines, so she did not want to be mistreated. Princess Qingmu closed the door and started to throw a tantrum. However, The Greenwood Kingdom's attitude was quite resolute, making Princess Qingmu feel quite annoyed. She planned to go and hide for a few days. The other large factions were also quite shocked. They had never thought that the Greenwood Kingdom would be so willing to marry their most noble princess to Qin's emperor. This would bind Qin to the Greenwood Kingdom. It seemed that the Greenwood Kingdom valued the Qin Kingdom greatly. Even though the Great Qin Empire had great potential, it was only potential. Many royal kingdoms looked down on its strength, as any royal kingdom could easily destroy it. Marrying off one of the noblest princesses was an insult to one's status. If they were to marry, they would at most marry an ordinary princess. It would be a simple marriage alliance, and they would not place so much importance on it. Moreover, the Qin Empire only had 4 worlds, and there was still a long way to go before it could become a royal kingdom. Who knew what would happen during this period of time? Perhaps the Qin Empire would be destroyed if it was not careful, and everything they had invested would be for naught. As such, before things were completely confirmed, the various factions only provided some resources and did not provide any substantial help. After all, they were not certain that the Qin Empire and the Devil Horn Kingdom would be able to establish a royal kingdom. Now, the Greenwood Kingdom was not only marrying off its most noble princess to Qin, but it was also doing its best to help Qin. This caused everyone to feel quite shocked, and they felt that they had placed too much importance on the Qin Empire. They could not afford to pay such a high price, and they wondered what the higher-ups of the Greenwood Kingdom were thinking. Why did they believe that the Qin Empire would be able to establish a kingdom? Moreover, the Qin Empire had another powerful opponent, the Devil Horn Empire. The Devil Horn Empire was not much weaker than the Qin Empire, but its potential was slightly weaker than the Qin Empire's. In a battle between 2 major powers in that region, it was not certain who would win. If the Qin Empire accepted the Greenwood Kingdom, the other factions would not be able to support the Qin Empire. After all, the Qin Empire already belonged to the Greenwood Kingdom, and if they supported it, they would be helping another faction. If everyone wanted to know what would happen in the future, as long as they knew Zhao Fu's identity, there would be countless large factions sending their most prestigious women to Great Qin to be married off to Great Qin. The Greenwood Kingdom did not know that it had made the best decision in its history. However, what no one had expected was that Qin Empire would refuse the Greenwood Kingdom's request and was not willing to marry Princess Qingmu. No one had expected that Qin Empire would refuse such a good opportunity. Was he not afraid that the Greenwood Kingdom would be enraged and send soldiers to destroy the Qin Empire? The Greenwood Kingdom was quite angry, but it was not too angry. After all, they were only interested in marrying Princess Qingmu over. Hearing about this, Princess Qingmu felt quite angry. It was evident that she did not want to marry Princess Qingmu, and now it was as if Qin did not want her anymore. With her status, marrying Zhao Fu would be Qin Empire's honor. Where is His Majesty Qin Empire? Hurry and call him out. This princess wants to see if he's worthy of this princess. Princess Qingmu ran to the Qin Imperial Palace and raised her little head as she called out to the people around her. Her words naturally caused many soldiers to look at her coldly. However, Princess Qingmu's cultivation was much higher than theirs, and she had the Greenwood Kingdom supporting her, so they did not mind. If it was an ordinary person, facing such cold gazes, they would have long since been scared to death. Chapter 1344. The reason why Zhao Fu had rejected the Greenwood Kingdom was quite simple. He did not want other factions to infiltrate. The royal kingdoms in the inner regions all had stage 2 soldiers, and with the strength of a border faction like Qin, how could it stop them from infiltrating? Moreover, if he made Princess Qingmu an empress, in terms of fate, Qin and Princess Qingmu would have a close connection. After all, an empress was not that easy to make. In actuality, Princess Qingmu was quite beautiful and could rank in the top 10 in the ancient STEM domain. She was quite unruly and arrogant. Zhao Fu came out after changing his aura a bit and said, "What business do you have with us? Also, this isn't the Greenwood Kingdom. Your tone should be nicer." Princess Qingmu's beautiful eyes looked at the cloaked and masked person and she understood that this was Great Qin's famous legatee. At the same time, Princess Qingmu felt an incredibly dangerous aura from his body, as well as an otherworldly aura. Without even thinking, she knew that he was not an ordinary person, and in front of him, Princess Qingmu instinctively felt weak. Princess Qingmu pouted and said unhappily, "Why did you reject the Greenwood Kingdom? You made this princess lose face." Seeing Princess Qingmu give in so easily, Zhao Fu could not help but lightly laugh as he replied, "You can be our ordinary concubine, and we don't want the Greenwood Kingdom to interfere too much with Qin." "What? Only an ordinary concubine? Do you know who this princess is and how beautiful this princess is? Don't you feel like you're insulting this princess?" Hearing Zhao Fu's words, Princess Qingmu glared at Zhao Fu and could not help but feel angry as she called out, "Husband, what is it?" Nu Lu walked out from the side and looked at Zhao Fu with her beautiful eyes as she spoke in a soft and flirtatious voice. Apart from Nu Lu, Wu Qingyang, Su Dafei, Wu Zetian, Benosh Karashimo, Yao Er, Sindra, and the other women also walked out. They were all extremely beautiful women, and they were not inferior to Princess Qingmu at all. Their faces were quite red, and after experiencing Zhao Fu's nourishment, they looked incredibly enchanting. They had not seen Zhao Fu in a while, and after Zhao Fu finished his matters, they started to do it with Zhao Fu regardless of whether it was day or night, and they took the initiative. This time, Zhao Fu carefully tasted the women he had brought back from the nothingness historical remnant, which were Sijuani and Akali. There were Goddess Diana, the goddess of the moon, Goddess Diana, dragon, Shiva, Goddess Shiva, Shiva, goddess of war, Goddess Shiva, and Goddess Shiva, Goddess Xiaochun. The ones he liked the most were Sindra, the valiant Shiva, the flirtatious Shiva, and the wild Sijuani. Before, Zhao Fu had not planned on touching them, and he had only done it with Wu Zetian and the other women. Sindra and the others had taken the initiative to join in, and the 8 women controlled by the sadistic killing sword were also quite lewd. Zhao Fu had not thought about the reason for this, and the sadistic killing sword's sword spirit happily explained to Zhao Fu how it had trained them. Moreover, they had been prepared to serve Zhao Fu. Fortunately, Zhao Fu had obtained the sadistic killing sword, or else they would be moaning under other men's bodies and enjoying the pleasure that other men gave them. Before Zhao Fu could say anything, Princess Qingmu looked at the women who were not inferior to her in terms of beauty, and there were so many of them. Some of the women gave off auras that were much more powerful than hers, and gave off a sense of danger. She had used her beauty as a source of confidence, but seeing so many women who were not inferior to her by Zhao Fu's side, she felt a massive blow to her confidence. Tears welled up in her eyes as she angrily pointed at Zhao Fu, unable to say anything. She yelled as she turned and left. Zhao Fu felt quite helpless as he watched Princess Qingmu leave. After all, she was the Greenwood Kingdom's most noble princess, and Zhao Fu could not do anything to her. It was just that rejecting the Greenwood Kingdom's marriage alliance would cause some trouble. Right now, Qin did not have the strength to resist the royal kingdom, so Zhao Fu felt a bit worried. Wu Zetian walked over and hugged Zhao Fu as she flirtatiously said in Zhao Fu's ear, "All right, it's time for you to enjoy yourself. Now is the time to enjoy. The political affairs can be dealt with later. This consort hasn't enjoyed enough yet. Do you know how much this consort's body needs you right now? That's right, Lil Li hasn't properly served master yet." Nine-tailed Fox leapt onto Zhao Fu's body and hugged Zhao Fu as she said coquettishly. Following this, Zhao Fu was dragged into a room by the women, and indescribable sounds could be heard. Before he knew it, it was already night, and a full moon appeared in the sky. Looking at the women sleeping soundly on the bed, Zhao Fu felt quite spirited. This was mainly because of the 6 desires demonic qi. As he cultivated the 6 desires celestial art, Zhao Fu seemed to have less and less resistance towards women. Even though indulging in lust felt quite delightful and could cause people to sink into it, Zhao Fu still felt a trace of regret. Perhaps things would have been different if he had chosen to abstain from lust back then. After returning to the palace, Zhao Fu started to read through memorials and take care of other matters. "Greetings, Your Majesty." Li Wen walked in with a look of delight and excitement on his face and bowed to Zhao Fu. Seeing Li Wen arrive, Zhao Fu felt quite surprised. Li Wen had been in charge of clearing out the underground region this entire time, and it had mostly been cleared out. This was because Qin now had 24 general armaments, and if he collected 1,000 soldier souls, he would be able to fuse a king armament. However, it would not be easy to gather 1,000 soldier souls, and that would be enough to fuse 10 general armaments. As soon as Li Wen arrived, Zhao Fu didn't know what was going on. Seeing Li Wen's excited expression, he immediately realized something and smiled as he asked, "You've gathered 1,000 soldier souls?" Li Wen smiled as he replied, "Yes, Your Majesty. Just now I discovered a large number of skeletons, and after destroying them, I obtained many soldier souls, more than 1,000. After confirming his thoughts, Zhao Fu could not help but laugh. Fusing a king armament had always been Qin's goal, and Zhao Fu had waited for a long time. It had been 8 years since he had discovered the underground region. Today, he was finally going to complete this matter. Zhao Fu smiled and had Li Wen bring the soldier souls, and he gave orders for the generals with general armaments to come. Fusing a king armament was much more troublesome than fusing a general armament, and it required 24 general armaments. As such, Zhao Fu ordered the 24 generals to quickly come. Zhao Fu wanted to fuse a general armament right now. Chapter 1345. This vessel was definitely not ordinary, as it was a vessel for a king armament. Zhao Fu looked through the Disaster King ring to see if there was anything suitable to be used as a vessel. The best would be a sword, and the highest grade Zhao Fu had were the Sadistic Killing Sword and the Emperor Killing Sword. The Sadistic Killing Sword was an Earth God armament and had abilities similar to God armaments. It was incredibly powerful and contained the Sadistic Killing Sword spirit, which Zhao Fu did not want to erase. After all, if he fused a king armament, the artifact spirit would also be erased. Moreover, the Sadistic Killing Sword's attributes were berserk, twisted, and cruel. It was not suitable for a king armament, so he could give up on the Sadistic Killing Sword. That left only the Emperor Killing Sword. The Emperor Killing Sword was an origin weapon, and it was of a higher grade than the Sadistic Killing Sword. It was originally the Clear Sable Sword, a sword of benevolence and a sovereign king's sword, but it had been forged by Zhao Fu into the Killing Heart Sword, which had the power to destroy souls. Following this, it became the core item of the Killing Sword world, fusing with boundless sword intent and killing intent. It had world-destroying power and was able to recreate the Killing Sword world. However, after being recast, the Killing Sword world had absorbed Zhao Fu's Emperor's power, causing the Killing Sword's power to weaken. However, because it still had Emperor's power, the Killing Sword world became the Emperor Killing Sword world, and the Clear Sable Sword became the Emperor Killing Sword. Even though the Emperor Killing Sword was filled with sword intent and killing intent, it also had Emperor's power. Moreover, the Emperor Killing Sword's main body, the Clear Sable Sword, was a sovereign king's sword, so Zhao Fu felt that it was quite suitable as a vessel. Now that the Emperor Killing Sword did not have a sword spirit, it would be easier to fuse with a divine soldier soul and become a king armament. In the end, Zhao Fu decided to use the Emperor Killing Sword as a vessel. Ordinary general armament's power was already incredibly terrifying, and a king armament's power would definitely be even more terrifying. The Emperor Killing Sword was also incredibly powerful, and if the two of them fused, who knew what would happen? Thinking of this, Zhao Fu couldn't help but feel a little excited. "Greetings, Your Majesty." Bai Qi, Wang Jian, Wei Liao, and the other 24 generals with general armaments came to the hall and called out in unison. Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile and said, "We called you all here to fuse with the king armament. Now, just follow Zhen's instructions." The generals nodded. The first thing to do was to prepare for the fusion. Zhao Fu brought everyone to a mountain far away from the city, and Zhao Fu used his power to cut off the mountain, leaving behind a smooth surface. Zhao Fu led everyone to the platform and distributed the 1,000 soldier souls to everyone. Among them, the 7 Murders Star, the Voracious Wolf Star, and the Army Destroyer Star received the most soldier souls. The 7 murders were the thieves who threw the world into chaos. Pujuan was a general who could sweep across the world. Ravenous Wolf was a treacherous and cunning man. Once these 3 stars converged, they would form the kill and destroy wolf pattern, and the world would fall into chaos. At that time, the country would be in turmoil, wars would break out everywhere, and the people would be unable to make a living. It was irreversible. As the king's star above the 3 general stars, it had the 3 general stars as its foundation, so it received the most soldier souls. Their effects were also the most powerful. Boom, boom, boom. Bai Qi and the other generals tossed their general armaments into the sky. The general armaments gave off different kinds of lights and exploded out with powerful auras, and an intense generals might spread out. The generals sat cross-legged on the ground and held a soldier soul in their hands, and they exploded out with their general's aura, activating the general armaments in the sky. Clang, clang, clang. The sound of metal clashing pierced through the night and sounded out in all directions. The 24 general armaments continuously trembled as a massive wave of heaven and earth power gathered and entered the general armaments. Rays of different lights descended on the soldier souls. The soldier souls quickly absorbed the general's power, and they originally gave off a faint white light, but as they absorbed the general's power, they became different colors. Moreover, the soldier souls started to become corporeal, and they no longer looked like orbs of light. The orbs of light continuously condensed, forming transparent orbs of different colors. 10 of these orbs could be fused together, forming an even larger rainbow orb that gave off even more light and power. Moreover, there seemed to be something like a star within the orb. The orbs could only be fused once, which was different from fusing with general armaments. As Zhao Fu and the other generals fused with the soldier souls, they did not remain idle. They first dug a 2-meter-long and 2-meter deep stone trough and poured spirit liquids into it, filling it to the brim. Finally, they lightly placed the Emperor Killing Sword into it. This was calming the sword. The Emperor Killing Sword's killing intent and sword intent were too powerful. So what Zhao Fu was doing was temporarily weakening its killing intent and sword intent and calming down its spirituality in preparation for the fusion. The silent sword was something that would only be used in important situations, and it could be seen how much importance Zhao Fu placed on this matter. Following this, Zhao Fu took out a golden orb of light that was as big as a fist. There seemed to be a dragon swimming within the orb of light. This dragon looked a little like a divine dragon, but it was different. Its horns were straight, and it had a pair of wings with golden feathers. Moreover, this dragon had 2 pupils, giving off a very serious and dangerous feeling. The golden orb of light was the most important item for fusing a king armament, which was the remnant soul of a king. Without this item, even if one had 1,000 soldier souls, they would not be able to fuse a king armament. The golden dragon within Zhao Fu's body had its eyes closed, and the instant Zhao Fu took out the golden orb of light, it suddenly opened its eyes and stared at the orb of light. The divine dragon within the orb of light looked exactly like the golden dragon, but there were some differences. Those differences were after it fused with Zhao Fu. Before, the golden dragon looked exactly like the divine dragon within the orb of light. Suddenly, the golden dragon gave a trace of a smile and did not say anything, but its expression became serious and filled with joy. If Zhao Fu saw its expression, he would feel quite shocked because the golden dragon rarely looked so happy. Zhao Fu did not want to do anything else but refine the remnant soul of a king. This was the core of a king armament, and the divine dragon within would become the king armament's king soul. As such, he had to refine it before fusing with it. To Zhao Fu, this was quite simple. After all, Zhao Fu had a divine bloodline, which reigned above countless emperors. However, In actuality, Zhao Fu had spent quite a bit of effort to refine the remnant soul of a king. This remnant soul felt quite extraordinary and seemed quite special. Chapter 1346. The generals and generals stood at the edges, split into 24 directions, surrounding Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu stood at the center with a serious expression. He first closed his eyes and calmed himself down before slowly opening them. Light flowed within his eyes as god weapon pearls appeared around Zhao Fu, giving off faint light as they floated around Zhao Fu. The god weapon pearls were naturally the pearls that had been fused. 10 of them had fused into one, and the 1,000 soldier souls had now condensed into 100 god weapon souls. Boom! Boom! Explosions sounded out as the god weapon pearls exploded out with powerful auras, causing wild gales to blow as they turned into rays of light and shot into the sky. They gave off intense, different-colored lights that lit up the surrounding 10 kilometers. Generals, heed my command. Zhao Fu stood at the center, his expression not changing at all. He did not look at the sky and instead lightly cried out. Bai Qi and the other generals and generals obeyed and raised their general armaments before exploding out with all of their power and sending it into the general armaments. 7 Murders Star, heed my command, descend. Army Destroyer Star, heed my command, descend. Voracious Wolf Star, heed my command, descend. Moon Star, heed my command, descend. Heaven Minister Star, heed my command, descend. As the generals and generals yelled, their bodies gave off intense light and turned into pillars of light that gave off terrifying auras as they shot into the sky. Boom! 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 The pillars of light gave off terrifying power as they shot into the sky, causing the sky to tremble as if it was going to split apart. The massive sounds startled all creatures in the surroundings, causing them to instinctively feel fear. A blood-red light spread out in the sky as a cold aura of killing and conquering ferociously spread out. A massive blood-red star giving off a powerful aura of suppression slowly descended, and black light shot out in all directions as an aura of conquering and conquering spread out. A massive black star giving off a massive might slowly descended. Following this, a green light covered half of the sky as an eerie and strange aura silently spread out. A green star giving off a powerful might broke through the restrictions of the sky and descended. The stars gave off different lights and gave off different terrifying auras as they slowly descended from the sky. There were 24 stars in total. The 24 stars gave off all sorts of intense starlight, making this place as bright as day. The light covered the surrounding tens of thousands of kilometers, and a powerful pressure seemed to cause the scene to freeze and fall into silence. Everything, whether it was flowers, grass, insects, beasts, mountains, or trees, seemed to be suppressed by an invisible force. Their faces were filled with horror, and they could not move at all. At that moment, the 100 schools of philosophers, who had no idea what Zhao Fu was going to do, came to their senses. They sensed a powerful fate trembling, and they rushed out of the room to look at the 24 resplendent stars in the sky with grave expressions. Even though no one knew what was going on, based on these ripples, it meant that something big was about to happen. Everyone looked at the stars, wanting to know what was going on. After summoning the 24 general stars, the commanders controlled the general stars and poured all of their power into the divine weapon pearls floating in the air. The 100 divine weapon pearls in the sky absorbed the boundless general star's power and gave off an even more intense light. The general power within them became incredibly powerful, and even space itself seemed to tremble. The 24 general stars gradually disappeared into the sky, and the 7 Murders divine weapon pearls giving off a blood-red light, the Army Destroyer divine weapon pearls giving off a black light, and the Voracious Wolf divine weapon pearls giving off a green light started to move and gather towards the center, taking up 3 directions. The other divine weapon pearls also started to move, taking up their own positions before spreading out and giving off their own lights. They attracted and connected with each other, forming a 10,000-meter wide, multicolored magic formation. Boom! As soon as the magic formation was formed, a huge pressure came crashing down. Countless cracks appeared in the space, and the ground instantly cracked and collapsed. A massive crater that was hundreds of thousands of meters wide appeared in the ground. Rocks and trees were all destroyed, and only the flattened mountain remained. It was as if there was some kind of power protecting this mountain, making everyone feel incredibly shocked. The terrifying shock waves caused everyone in the human world to sense them, and they all looked towards the multicolored magic formation. Zhao Fu slowly raised his head and looked at the sky, where the magic formation gave off intense light and shocking power. He slowly took out a golden pearl. This was the remnant soul of a king that Zhao Fu had refined. Zhao Fu sent his divine power into it, causing the golden pearl to give off a brilliant golden light. It slowly rose up and entered the center of the multicolored magic formation, which was where the 7 murders divine weapon pearls, voracious wolf divine weapon pearls, and army destroyer lord pearls were. The golden pearl seemed to be pouring a soul into the magic formation, and the multicolored magic formation seemed to come to life. Heaven and earth power madly gathered, and the world started to go through massive changes. Clouds swirled, and wild gales blew as thunder boomed. Terrifying ripples flooded out, and it was not just the human world, but the surrounding 10 or so worlds all felt these terrifying ripples. Yao Ming and the other people's expressions fell, and they hurriedly went outside and looked towards where Qin was. There was a hair-raising power coming from that direction. A massive gale had been kicked up where Zhao Fu was, and the surroundings were covered by brilliant rainbow light. The magic formation continuously devoured heaven and earth power, and the terrifying ripples it gave off became more and more terrifying. Zhao Fu's expression became serious, and he took out the Emperor Killing Sword and pointed it at the sky. He exploded out with all of his power, and his body gave off divine power that could cause people to despair. He turned into a black ray of light and shot into the massive magic formation. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded out as the multicolored magic formation instantly expanded out to 100,000 meters wide and quickly spun, giving off a heaven-devouring power. The expressions of the people in the surrounding 10 or so worlds fell, because the power of their world was being sucked away by a massive wave of power. Just what is Qin doing? Countless people looked incredibly shocked. For such terrifying ripples to come from Qin, Qin was definitely doing something incredibly terrifying. That power caused countless people to feel a chill, and they instinctively wanted to stop him, but they found that they were powerless. The sky gradually darkened, and the moon had long since disappeared as if all of the light had been devoured by darkness. It was not just the sky, but the entire world. Even the things in front of them could not be seen clearly, and they felt a boundless darkness. The world seemed to fall silent, and there was not a trace of sound. Chapter 1347. A trace of blood-red light appeared within the darkness, following which even more blood-red light appeared, dyeing the world blood-red. An enormous blood-red star, giving off an immense pressure, slowly descended from the sky. A disaster, conquering, bloodthirsty, and devilish aura swept through the world like a heaven-toppling flood. The people from the 10 or so worlds felt a chill in their hearts, and they felt as if they had fallen into an icy river. Icy water flowed over them, and the bone-chilling coldness caused their bodies to uncontrollably tremble. Suddenly, wild gales howled, destroying everything. Lightning continuously exploded out, and torrential rain continuously descended. The ground continuously trembled, and it was as if the heavens and earth were facing a massive calamity. Bang! Before anyone could react, an earth-shattering sound rang out, and a world-destroying storm swept out. Boulders were blown into the sky, trees were uprooted, and the ground was peeled off layer by layer. Countless cracks appeared in the sky. Countless rays of golden light spilled out from the crack, dyeing the sky gold. An incredibly noble and supreme golden star slowly descended, and a formless power that could cause all things in the world to submit spread out. Countless people's bodies sank as they looked shocked. This was yet another terrifying power that could cause all creatures to submit. They had felt it before, and it was something that was deeply engraved in their hearts. Some ordinary beasts had long since knelt on the ground in fear, looking terrified. Countless people's bodies also uncontrollably knelt on the ground. This golden light gave the greatest pressure to the human race, and almost no human race could resist it. They knelt on the ground as if they were facing the world's most terrifying emperor, feeling incredibly nervous, and covered their bodies with sweat. The other races had some strength to resist, such as Yao Ming. Facing the resplendent golden star in the sky, he gave off a will of submission and resisted with all of his strength. He definitely would not kneel to Great Qin. As for everyone else, they had long since knelt on the ground, including the princes who had just been talking to Yao Ming. They looked incredibly shocked because in front of that power, their bloodlines and power could not resist at all and instinctively wanted to submit. As this golden star descended, the people in the inner regions of the ancient stem domain sensed it and came outside to look at the resplendent golden star in the sky. Boom! Another loud rumble rang out, and countless gray lights enveloped the sky. The surrounding temperature plummeted and a cold aura filled the heavens and earth. A massive gray star that looked like a moon, giving off an immense might, slowly descended from the sky. It shook the surroundings and caused all creatures to feel fear, and all gods and demons retreated. Everyone felt the pressure on their bodies increase again. They were pressed to the ground, unable to resist. Suddenly, strands of ghostly chi rose up from the ground, and transparent figures appeared on the ground. There were old and young people, men and women, and they were all people who had died here. They looked at the gray star with solemn expressions and walked towards it as if they were on a pilgrimage. The ground was filled with these spirits in all directions. It was impossible to count how many there were. In any case, they were densely packed together. Boom! The heavens and earth once again gave off an explosion before continuously trembling. A brilliant violet light covered the ground as a violet sun-like star with a dragon-shaped star gave off an unimaginably powerful devil intent and a ferocious aura as it blasted down. Countless beasts and birds cried out and felt despair. They looked at the violet dragon star in the sky as if they were begging. Everyone felt the pressure on their bodies become much stronger. The moment the violet dragon star descended, an explosion sounded out in Yao Ming's mind, and his mind went blank. As a member of the devil race, he was unable to resist this kind of pressure. The four massive stars gave off immense might and gave off four-colored lights, seeming to split the world into four parts. Now, the people of the dozens of worlds looked at the four stars in shock. They could not understand why these four terrifying stars had appeared, just what had happened. The ripples coming from those stars made it so that no one dared to get close. It was like a forbidden region, causing everyone to feel fear. Fuse. Zhao Fu looked at the four stars and continued to point his sword at the heavens as he lightly cried out, "Great Emperor! Great Emperor!" Boom! 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 For massive explosions shook the surroundings as the four terrifying stars gave off intense light and poured a vast ocean-like power into the multicolored magic formation. After absorbing the four Emperor stars' terrifying power, the multicolored magic formation quickly spun and a destructive aura spread out. The surrounding space continuously collapsed, turning into primal chaos, and a multicolored pillar of light descended and landed on Zhao Fu's body. Zhao Fu raised the Emperor Killing Sword. After using the Stillness Sword, it had become incredibly calm, but as the Emperor Star's power flowed into it, the Emperor Killing Sword's reaction became intense. Xing, an almost corporeal killing intent and sword intent spread out, leaving behind deep sword gashes in the ground. The fusion was not simple, and the two powers were resisting the Emperor Star's power. Zhao Fu once again closed his eyes and focused on controlling the Emperor-killing sword, allowing it to absorb the Emperor Star's power. The Emperor-killing sword world continuously trembled, and the sky darkened as countless traces of sword chi flew about chaotically. For rays of starlight covered the Emperor-killing sword world, and the Emperor Star's power continuously flowed into it, causing the Emperor-killing sword's reaction to gradually weaken. The Emperor-killing sword started to absorb the Emperor Star's power, and the Emperor-killing sword world started to go through changes. A while later, the Emperor-killing sword absorbed more and more Emperor Star's power, and the aura it gave off became more and more terrifying. The four Emperor Stars gradually disappeared into the sky, and the rainbow pillar of light became smaller. In the end, the rainbow magic formation turned into a ray of light and imprinted itself on the Emperor-killing sword. The King armament had successfully fused, but before Zhao Fu could feel happy Xing, a massive sword hum spread out, seeming to be corporeal. It contained destructive power as it tore through the sky and pierced through countless worlds, causing the heavens and earth to tremble. The people in the surrounding domains felt as if the sword hum had exploded in their ears, causing intense pain in their ears. As Zhao Fu watched in shock, the Emperor-killing sword left his control and turned into a ray of sword light as it shot towards the sky. Boom! The entire Heaven Awakened world gave off an explosion, and countless powerful figures opened their eyes. They felt that the Heaven Awakened world's massive fate was gathering towards a certain place. Chapter 1348. To be able to gather such a massive amount of fate, even ordinary celestials would not be able to do such a thing. That thing definitely had an unimaginable amount of fate to be able to do such a thing. Even if it wasn't from something with all of the Heaven Awakened world's fate gathering towards that place, something that could shake the entire Heaven Awakened world might happen there. As such, the experts did not dare to underestimate this place, so they all treated it seriously. However, there were no results. That place where the fate was gathering seemed to be covered by an extremely terrifying power, and they were unable to detect it at all. Only the Heaven's Secrets Pavilion knew what was going on, as they had found that the four Emperor Stars were sending their power into something terrifying. They did not know what that thing was, but it was most likely related to fate, or else it would not be able to gather the Heaven Awakened world's fate. The fate of a single Emperor Star could change a large race and affect the situation in the Heaven Awakened world. Just how terrifying would four Emperor Stars be? The people from the Heaven's Secrets Pavilion all looked quite serious, not knowing what Sheen was doing to make them feel a trace of fear. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded out as the boundless cosmos fate flowed into the Emperor-killing sword. The Emperor-killing sword was like a black hole, devouring all of the fate, and a world-destroying sword energy spread out. Within the Emperor-killing sword world, 4 stars appeared in the blue sky. Those 4 stars were the 4 Emperor Stars, and their power continuously flowed into the Emperor-killing sword world, while the Emperor-killing sword world's power also flowed into the Emperor Stars. With a massive amount of fate, the two sides gradually fused together. This was a true fusion. Xing! A clear sword light sounded throughout the Heaven Awakened world, announcing the birth of an extremely terrifying existence. Countless people felt quite shocked. Just what kind of sword hum could cause such a massive commotion? Could it be a celestial sword? No one knew, but this sword hum caused the Heaven Awakened world's aura to tremble, causing the weather to change and clouds to swirl. The human race suddenly felt a sense of fear, and cold sweat dripped down their bodies. The devil race's devil beasts were so scared that they collapsed to the ground, and the death race's countless ghosts gave off terrifying roars. An aura of disaster, illness, slaughter, war, and evil spread throughout the Heaven Awakened world. The human race, devil race, and death race's experts all became extremely sensitive to this aura. This caused the expressions of countless higher beings to fall. Fortunately, this power was not very strong, and it was not strong enough to affect the heavens, earth, and humans. Otherwise, under the influence of that power, the world would fall into chaos, and all kinds of natural disasters would occur everywhere. Plagues and diseases would spread continuously, and misfortune would come one after another. Everyone would be filled with killing, and wars would erupt between countries. Moreover, a large number of monsters who would bring disaster to the world would appear. How can such a ferocious creature be allowed to descend into the world? Right now, countless higher beings wanted to destroy the thing giving off that terrifying aura. That definitely could not allow it to remain in the world, or else the world might be destroyed by its hands. It was a pity that even if the countless supreme beings wanted to kill that ferocious creature, they had no way of knowing where that ferocious creature was due to the powerful heaven's secrets. They only knew what that ferocious creature was and what it looked like. Since they could not use divination methods to find that ferocious creature, the large factions could only send out disciples to track it down. They had to find it as soon as possible, or else, if that terrifying power became stronger, the consequences would be unimaginable. Now, the higher beings understood what had attracted the heaven-awakened world's fate. It was most likely that world-destroying, ferocious creature. Many disciples obeyed the order and went to search for that ominous creature. However, they still didn't understand what was going on because they didn't feel that terrifying chi. That kind of chi could only be sensed by people with extremely high cultivation. The palpitation, fear, and dread they had felt before were merely their instinctive reactions to that terrifying aura. They had not sensed that aura, so they did not know the reason behind it. If ordinary people could sense that aura, the world would have long since fallen into chaos, and no one would be able to escape from that aura. The teachers of Emperpath College gathered to discuss this matter. Just what kind of monster do you think it is? It actually possesses such terrifying power. If we don't destroy it as soon as it descends into the world, all living beings and everything in the world will be destroyed by its hands. I think it should be a sword. I wonder who has the ability to forge such an evil sword to harm the world. That's right. That sword is practically a sword of calamity, slaughter, death, war, madness, and evilness. I'm afraid that even the person who forged the sword would suffer an extremely strong backlash from such a terrifying and ominous object. He would have to endure endless calamities and reap what he sowed. I don't really care about these things. I just want to know who the person who forged this evil sword is and what kind of terrifying method was used to forge this sword. That's going to be difficult. Not only is this vicious item protected by an enormous amount of fate, making it impossible to divine its location, the person who forged the sword is also quite extraordinary. He is also protected by an enormous amount of heaven's secrets. I wonder which old monster it is. Now, let's follow the other forces and search around. Perhaps we'll be able to find out something. The various factions will not be able to remain calm because the appearance of that evil sword will not be good for anyone. The human Phoenix Empire also took this matter to heart. After all, they were from the human race, so they were quite sensitive to that aura. More importantly, they could sense a trace of power that surpassed that of emperors. Just the fact that it surpassed emperor's power was enough to shock countless people. But adding on that ferocious and evil aura, it was even more shocking. The human Phoenix Empire understood how terrifying the evil sword was more than anyone else, so they took this matter very seriously. They also sent out experts to search for that sword. No matter who it was, anyone who had anything to do with the evil sword would be killed without mercy. It was likely that everyone in the heaven-awakened world had this attitude. No one would keep anything that could threaten them. Feng Xianghua did not care too much about this because she was completely focused on finding Zhao Fu's whereabouts. Even with the human Phoenix Empire's faction, they could not find Zhao Fu, which made Feng Xianghua feel quite surprised. It was as if Zhao Fu had appeared in the heaven domain out of nowhere and had not obtained anything. Feng Xianghua felt quite furious about this and decided that if she could catch him again, she would imprison him in the imperial palace for the rest of his life. Feng Xianghua would never have thought that the person who forged the evil sword was Zhao Fu. Chapter 1349. My heart hurts so much. Such a peerless sword's fate is actually going to be destroyed by everyone. If you gave this sword to me, I promise to hide in a place where no one is around and protect this sword for the rest of my life. I will accompany this sword for the rest of my life and not allow it to harm the world. Huh? Do you think you can control that evil sword? Just by descending, that evil sword was able to gather the entire heaven-awakened world's fate, and its evil aura spread throughout the world. Do you know just how terrifying that evil sword is? Even though I love swords, I feel that such an evil sword should be destroyed and not allowed to harm the world. However, it's quite a pity for such a peerless sword to be destroyed like this. Perhaps it can compare to the heavenly awakened 10 swords. Speaking of the heavenly awakened 10 swords, isn't the third-ranked Demon World evil sword also an extremely evil and dark sword? The power it contains can easily demonize 10 worlds. Anyone who is weak will fall into the demonic path in front of this sword and become a monster of slaughter. However, no one wants to destroy this sword. Why did this evil sword cause such a thing? The Demon World evil sword can at most affect a small portion of people, and everyone wants to obtain it to unleash terrifying power. How could they destroy it? However, that evil sword is different. It directly harms everyone. They're two completely different types of swords. That's right. The Demon World evil sword is used as a weapon to kill people, but that evil sword is not a weapon, but a source of disaster. This sword is quite different and most likely isn't an ordinary weapon. Moreover, it gives off such a powerful evil aura and has gathered such a large amount of fate. That evil sword is most likely a special evil sword. There's no need for us to say anything else. Let's go and find that evil sword. Our sect has the 10,000 Sword Heaven Stone, so we should have an advantage. Perhaps we'll be able to find that sword. If we don't destroy it, we'll seal it in our sword sect. Now, all of the factions were searching for the evil sword's whereabouts, and there was no disagreement. They all wanted to destroy this evil sect, as it would become the source of all disasters. If they did not destroy it, they would be doomed. The other powers didn't know anything about the evil sword, nor did they know its origins. However, there was one power that did. It was the secret pavilion. They had been paying close attention to Zhao Fu all this while, and had not missed out on any information. They were also very familiar with Zhao Fu's aura, which was why they knew about the evil sword and the reason it was so terrifying. They guessed that Zhao Fu was most likely condensing some sort of fate item. In actuality, General Armaments, King Armaments, General Stars, King Stars, and Emperor Stars were all closely related to fate, so it was not wrong to call them fate items. However, they did not know what Zhao Fu was thinking. He had actually fused the killing sword with the power of the 4 Emperor Stars. Because it was an item of fate, adding on a massive amount of fate from the 4 Emperor Stars, and how terrifying the killing sword itself was, it was able to absorb as much fate as possible, which was why so much heaven and earth fate had gathered, forming such a terrifying evil sword. As for the attribute of the sword, why wasn't it the attribute of the Celestial Large Sword? The attributes of the Nether Emperor Star? The attribute of the Purple Sky Dragon Star? Even if it wasn't any of those attributes, the ordinary killing sword's attributes were already quite terrifying. So why did it have to be the attribute of the Chaos Imperial Star? In terms of power, the Celestial Emperor Star, Nether Emperor Star, and Purple Sky Dragon Star were the supreme Emperor Stars of the 3 races, so they were definitely more powerful than the Chaos Imperial Star. Logically speaking, the Emperor Killing Sword should not have been the attribute of the Chaos Imperial Star. There were many reasons for this, including the following. Zhao Fu's first Emperor Star was the Chaos Imperial Star, which was Zhao Fu's Fate Star. The others were all secondary stars, and naturally could not replace the Chaos Imperial Star. Moreover, even though the 3 Emperor Stars were powerful, they did not have clear attributes. They were not like the 7 Murder Swords attribute was Massacre, the Army Destroyer Sword's attribute was Conquest, and the Greed Sword's attribute was Conspiracy. The Chaos Imperial Star's attribute was Disaster, so it naturally fulfilled the requirements to become a King Armament. Finally, the formation of the Chaos Imperial Star was quite special. It was fused with the Chaos Demon Star and the Myrtle Imperial Star, and it had the ability to devour other Emperor Stars. As the supreme Emperor Stars of the three races, the three Emperor Stars were indeed powerful, but the truly powerful one was still the Chaos Imperial Star. Its aura of disaster could corrode and devour all other stars, and no Emperor Star could escape its corrosion. This attribute was the bane of many other stars. AI, this person has such great talent and great opportunities. Why can't he just focus on his development? Perhaps one day, he would be able to shake the heaven domain. What sword forging? Now, everyone in the world wants to kill him. I feel the same way. It's the first time someone has had 4 Emperor Stars supporting him. It's a pity that even a higher being won't be able to protect him. What higher being? Even a half-celestial would find it difficult to protect him. Unless he hands over that evil sword, the only outcome for him will be death. Don't say that. He's someone with the Chaos Imperial Star fate. How could he just stay put? What's more, he has 4 Emperor Stars, and he didn't die from the Emperor Killer Curse, so perhaps he still has a chance. I feel that if such a person develops, he'll definitely become an extremely terrifying person. In the future, let's wait for his name to shake the heaven domain. Of course, the prerequisite is that he doesn't die. Everyone discussed this matter, and the young woman in white had a serious expression on her face and did not say anything. This matter had long since been reported to the higher-ups, and those old monsters most likely knew about it. Now, they were just waiting for their orders. The order was quickly given to continue observing and not to interfere. It was forbidden to discuss this matter within the pavilion, and anyone who disobeyed would be killed without mercy. Even though the first few sentences were just as calm as before, the last few sentences suddenly became filled with killing intent. It could be seen how important this matter was to the higher-ups. Hearing this order, everyone felt quite startled and obediently shut their mouths. Hearing this order, the young woman in white frowned and did not feel too surprised. No one knew what she was thinking, but she went to the Heaven's Secrets instrument and sent her consciousness into the boundless Heaven's Secrets. Back at Sheen, all of the abnormal signs might had disappeared. The Emperor-killing sword had absorbed a large amount of fate and silently floated in the sky. Its appearance had not changed much, and it was still a black and blood-red color, and gave off a simple and ancient aura. The only change was that there was a magic formation on the sword. It was the rainbow magic formation from before, but it was now a black and blood-red color. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.